We're live. Ben, we're back in person.
Oh, we're so back.
You see right above us, we're not talking about, if you're watching on YouTube or Spotify right now, you can see we're not talking football today. There's a reason you clicked on the episode. It's our mega nuclear missile, whatever the biggest college basketball preview you could possibly put out today.
Yeah,
it's
going to be great.
We're going 2 hours strong here. We're going to try and touch on almost every team we possibly can. We're going to talk about coaches. We're going to talk about everything. Ben, college basketball's back. We're recording right now. What's today? Wednesday the 30th?
Yeah.
We're 5 days away.
It snuck up on me pretty quick.
It didn't for me.
Yeah.
The NBA snuck up on me. NBA was all of a sudden, it's like, whoa, wait, the Timberwolves are playing right now? It's a Tuesday.
No,
and,
yeah.
And you got Charles Barkley on my TV, which is great, but college basketball, I've been ready. I think so if this is your first time tuning into the podcast, I grew up a Duke fan, and, we're both BYU fans, went to BYU, go to BYU, and Ben grew up a Virginia fan. I think it snuck up on you because you've just been going through so much trauma.
Yeah, no, because I remember it was it was about a week and a half ago that Tony Bennett retired. I remember going, it's 20 days before the season. Oh, my goodness. And then it's like I'm dealing with all the aftermath of that.
Yep.
And then I'm like, this team still plays games.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We'll get into them in a little bit.
Yeah, we have to.
Yeah. And so the way this preview is going to work real quick before we get into things, we're going to start off talking about the best team in the country. Obviously, the AP poll's out and everything. I was so happy when the AP poll came out, even though I disagreed with quite a bit of it, but it doesn't matter.
It's just nice to see the number.
Yep.
Next to the name. I don't care if I agree.
ESPN, the score app, whatever you use to look at your college basketball scores, they all have their ratings or the teams, the schedules. It's all there now, finally. You can scroll ahead and look at games. It's amazing. But we're going to start off best team in the country, most overrated, most underrated. We'll take a quick break, and then we're going to roll into we have a transfer quiz. Maybe we'll do that before the break, and then we'll roll into some brief conference previews, and then we'll do some season predictions, and then we'll get out of here. Before we talk about the best team in the country, Ben, I texted you. I had this take. We're both married men now.
Mm-hmm.
The women in our lives, and I think women all across the world, hate this sport more than anything else. And I've sat there and wondered, how could you hate college basketball? It's amazing. And I'm not a woman, that's for one. They hate it so much, and there's a few reasons why. One, I think college basketball, especially nowadays, before you could be a little casual, I don't know if you can necessarily even be a college basketball casual anymore.
No, I mean, especially we had to deep dive. We're doing these transfer quizzes of guys that we know a lot about, and then we're like,
where do they play?
What team are they on?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that, right? And then, yeah, I mean, as you said, we're married men, and the other day, we was just she was like, hey, I know college basketball's coming up. We need to have a conversation about how this is going to go. And I'm like, all right, there's something different about college basketball. The women in our lives, it's a struggle.
The other reason why I would say they hate college basketball is it's not a cute sport. It's a
diehard one.
Yeah, it's a diehard one. It's not cute where you take a picture at a college basketball game and post it on Instagram. It's not cute, but you take a picture, put it on Instagram of you at a tailgate, you're outside. College basketball is the ultimate basement dweller sport where it's I'm going to sit in my basement and just grind college basketball. And also the other reason, it's on every single day. There's not a day we're going to have where there's zero college basketball on.
Yeah, no, there really isn't. I think a lot of the quote unquote casuals, the people who show up in March.
After the Super Bowl.
Yeah, after the Super Bowl. I don't understand though, you're missing out on so much. It's so much more. This past year, me and my roommate, I didn't have any classes the week of Thanksgiving. We watched Feast Week.
Yep.
Just all day.
Yep.
Every day for a week straight. It was so much fun. It's just you're missing out on that part. The November, December, there's something people don't get it. It's okay, Virginia's beating Campbell by 20 in the second half. Why are you still watching? I'm I need to see what our third point guard looks like.
And that's why I said it's the ultimate sicko sport.
No, it is. It is. It is.
And yeah, so they hate it, but it doesn't matter. College basketball's back, and I'm so excited. Let's talk about college basketball then. Since
Let's
we're
do
here. It's been about 8 minutes into the show. We should probably get into it. Ben, who is the best team in college basketball this year? The AP has Kansas at ranked 1, Bama 2, UConn 3. Who is the best team this year in college basketball?
The best team in the country is Alabama.
I would agree, yes.
I think it's Alabama. You have Mark Sears back. He's a guy who's going to be a first-team All-American this year. You have Grant Nelson, another great player. You've got a big man transfer in
Cliff. Yeah,
Cliff. I'm not going to pretend to be able to pronounce his last name. You've got a guy like Jaron Stevenson who's in the Sweet 16 who went off against Clemson. He's back, coming presumably off the bench.
Mm-hmm.
You have Holloway, transfer from Auburn. There's just continuity. There's high-level star players. You've got an analytically minded coach who can really coach offense, a lot of offensive personnel. I just think they're very well-rounded. They're going to be coming off strong after their finish in the Final Four last year. I like this Alabama team, and I'm one who's kind of been skeptical of Alabama teams in the past, but this one's really good.
This one is super good. Mark Sears, not necessarily a spoiler alert, because I think he should have been the preseason Naismith Player of the Year. He was so dominant in that tournament, and the way he led Alabama. Yeah, they lose a couple guys, but the fact that Alabama made the Final Four last year with zero rim protection is my biggest thing of thinking why this is the best team in the country right now, because they made the Final Four and they beat good teams along the way, like Carolina. They won tough games, and they even held with UConn for a half. But when you don't have that rim protection, eventually you're going to get burned. And we've seen that with the Miami team of 22-23. We've seen it, with Duke even last year, where they ended up getting burned because they didn't have rim protection. And so now that they have rim protection, they can go up and down the floor. They're going to put up 1 billion shots a game. I think they have to be the number one team in the country for me in my eyes. But one cold shooting night, this team's out in March. And that's the scary part of the way they play is, okay, great, you can put up 140 points in a given game. Like, no, in a 40-minute game, they could score 120, no problem. We saw it. We've seen it. But one cold shooting night in the second round and a cold night in Denver, Colorado, you might be toast.
Yeah, no, exactly. And Alabama's the kind of team where their seeding almost doesn't matter.
No.
Right? We're talking about, we have Brandon Miller, that team that was stacked. And they lose Sweet 16. This team wasn't as good, makes the Final Four. It's really, and a reason I didn't like Alabama last year. Remember we talked about them throughout the seasons, do you buy Alabama? I was always on no, because they could go cold shooting. They were hot. But they might go cold again this March.
They didn't even go cold against UConn. They were red hot in that first half.
Yeah,
it
didn't matter.
They just went against UConn, who was clearly the best team last year. We kept trying to talk ourselves out of that one.
We did.
But with Alabama, they have to be the number one team in the country.
Yeah, no, they're definitely number one for me. But they're a team I wouldn't be shocked if they're going to have some head-scratching losses. Yeah, I don't know if it's early. I don't know if it's late, but they're going to have those.
And that's what I wrote down on my notes here. I'm looking at it right now. Alabama, one thing I wrote down is decent recruiting class too. They're going to have a game early in the season where you go, ooh, why did they drop that one? Why are they losing to this average Power 5 team right now? And you go,
why'd they lose to Illinois at home?
Yeah, and you're just
that's the one I'm looking
yeah, and you're
at
like,
right
wait, what? They lost to Illinois, who I think could be a very good team depending on eligibility concerns, and you're gonna think, it's okay, this isn't gonna work and whatnot, but they're gonna drop a random SEC game on a Tuesday night. You're like, wait, they lost to Texas A&M tonight? How? What? Why? But it just doesn't matter. And you mentioned Alabama, where it doesn't matter what their seeding is. I don't think because it doesn't matter who their matchup is. Alabama is going to play the way Alabama wants to play. It's like Tony Bennett in Virginia. It didn't matter who they played. They were never going to get sped up no matter what. The opposite is true for Alabama, where they're always going to speed it up, and it doesn't matter who they play. They're going to play that same pace, and dictate the tempo no matter what their matchup is. It just comes down to, how bad was their shooting night? That's the only way they lose, I think.
No, I agree. It's going to be like they shot 5 for 30 from 3.
Yep. Another team, let's talk about this other team, then we'll roll into like most overrated, underrated, and go through some conference stuff and get to a lot more teams. The other team that's kind of in that one spot, everyone was competing. Obviously, they're the AP number 1, but not in our eyes, Kansas. We were early on the Kansas fraud train last year. This is a very fraudulent team. They lack a lot of talent beyond the arc. Hunter Dickinson has the ball in his hands too much. Now this Kansas team, they return a lot. They bring in some guys like AJ Storr, Zeke Mayo, Rylan Griffin. They've got a great point guard. They've got Dickinson. McCullough's gone. KJ Adams is back. Why is Kansas not the number 1 team in your eyes?
I mean, we talked about the next sort of segments we have. This is my most overrated team.
Oh, let's just roll right into that. So they're your most overrated team?
They're my most overrated team because I just feel like you kind of replaced the guys you lost last year and then are now telling me that it's better now.
Yeah. Well, and also, I think that's a great point, too. And we saw when McCullough went out last season, this was a team, if they played that entire season last year without Kevin McCullough, I'm not exaggerating when I say this, they would have been playing on Tuesday of the Big 12 tournament. That's how bad that team was. They got obliterated. They got murdered by Cincinnati in the Big 12 tournament. Yeah, they were missing a couple more guys in that game, but still, they got obliterated in that game. It all depends on, is AJ Storr bought in? Is KJ Adams, we know who he is. Hunter Dickinson, we definitely know who he is. We've seen too much of him. We know who Harris is. It just depends on Rylan Griffin. Can he be a knockdown shooter like they need? Where Nick Timberlake, that wasn't happening last season.
Nope. And I do think, and even Elmarco Jackson, that's someone last year, and he's out all of this year, that they were relying on to make an instant impact. You had Johnny Furphy, who ended up, being a starter for them, and he was a good player. He's in the NBA now, but, they had no bench. They really had no bench. I think my biggest concern with this team, right, I think you're going to have to be carried on offense. You're going to need Rylan Griffin, Zeke Mayo, AJ Storr, the wings to be hits. And the problem is, KJ Adams and Hunter Dickinson, I think we learned, that combo, it just doesn't really work together.
That's what I keep trying to tell people, is that does not go together, because when Harris, Adams, and Dickinson are on the court together,
you have 3 practically non-shooters.
Exactly.
Except for maybe Dickinson's a half shooter.
You can just hover in the paint, and you can slack off on defense and go help on the other 2 guys, which will likely be Griffin and Storrs or Zeke Mayo, whoever it may be. Their entire season relies on one of those 3 guys just becoming an absolute stud All-American.
Yep. And
if they want to reach the heights of a national title winner, they're this team as it is right now, they're good enough to go to the second weekend for sure. And
absolutely.
I think you and I are talking down on Kansas more than anybody else, because everybody's bought into this team. Yeah, no, and I want to make it clear, right? We talk a lot about last year. I think this team's better than last year's team. Yeah, but I'm not sure they're a 1 seed. I just think sort of my concerns are, okay, some of the things you brought back, that doesn't fix anything. Hunter Dickinson is now not in year 30 of Hunter Dickinson in college basketball. He's not going to be a good pick and roll defender. You're just going to be able to put him in pick and roll situations and abuse him. And for him to be effective on offense, he has to have the ball in his hands so much, and the ball stops when it's in his hands. Yep. And the offense becomes stagnant, and he also this is a Hunter Dickinson possession. Yes, and everybody's the defense you're going against is pumped whenever Hunter Dickinson takes a shot outside of 12 feet. Yep, and then I like DeJuan Harris. He's a good player, but I do think the shooting is an issue, and you're going to need that to be overcompensated from the 2 to 4 spots. Dickinson can shoot it a little bit, but if you're a defense playing against Kansas, you're okay, Hunter Dickinson wants to shoot a 3, go for it. If that's how we lose, that's how we lose. So I think you need you're replacing McCullough kind of in the Moneyball terms in the aggregate. Yep. You need Storr, Griffin, Mayo. You need those guys to step up.
KJ Adams is going to end up, he's like your backup 5 at this point. They're going to have to, the problem though is they're going to feel like KJ Adams is too good and Hunter Dickinson are too good. So they're going to end up playing them together, I think, too much. I think that's going to be an issue. I think you're relying on AJ Storr and like Griffin to give you what McCullough was giving you last year, which could happen. I think people are just slotting in AJ Storr as McCullough good, and I'm not sure if he is. I do think there's, with Griffin and Mayo, they can kind of exceed that, but I think this is a team that's better than last year. And when I'm saying most overrated, I think they're 6. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying they're bad. I
still think they're a top 10 team.
Yes.
But they're not the number 1 team in the country in my eyes either.
No, they're not.
The other thing we'll touch on Kansas, the last 2 things I have, and then we'll move on. KJ Adams, I think him playing I think their best lineup at some point this year is going to be Harris, Griffin, Zeke, KJ Adams, and who am I missing?
Did you have Rylan Griffin in there?
Griffin, Zeke, Adams, Harris, and
Storr.
That's it. Duh. I think that's going to be their best 5. I think that's when they're going to be their most dangerous. When it's time, when they're down in a game, let's say they're down 8 to a team like Houston, and it's time. Okay, we got to buckle up and we got to score some points. That's going to be their lineup. Yep. They're going to have to play a little small ball, but they're going to be able to stretch the floor so much more. And KJ Adams is going to be able to. He's going to have more space to attack the rim more. And I just don't think it's going to be successful when you have 3 complete non-factors beyond the arc on the court for them.
Yeah, I agree. I just think, though, like, I think there's going to have to be a degree of, like, Bill Self is going to have to make tough decisions. And I'm not even saying, like almost like putting his pride, not his pride, but, like, everyone's pride aside and being like, Hunter Dickinson needs to sit here. Yep. Like, I think you're going to have to do that. Because, I mean, this is a guy, like, he's just kind of a polarizing player. It's kind of like it's not as extreme as Zach Edey, but it's like shades of in terms of like.
Yeah, it's like Zach Edey.
It's like he kind of hurts you a little bit at points, like.
Yeah, it's like if Zach. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's shades of Zach Edey, but like.
You know what I mean?
And he just wanted that villain role so bad, too. It's weird. It's almost like Cam Rising. No, he's not that bad.
Bill Self, like he's a game time decision.
Yeah, he's a game time decision every game they start doing that. The last thing I'll touch on with Kansas, how much of this is a Bill Self FU season? Because last year Bill Self was a little bit of a laughing stock. I wonder how much is just he's like, this is our year. And I don't want to bet against Bill Self in the Big 12, but also this isn't the same Big 12 that Kansas won 400 years in a row.
No, I think you're being kind of like silly to just be like, oh, well, Kansas is just going to walk through and win it. Mm-hmm. I mean, we're talking about teams that can win the national championship. Like, there's at least 2 to 3 others that could win the national championship in their conference. Yep. So it's not going to be a cakewalk.
No, it's not going to be a cakewalk. I'll do my most overrated team real quick. I have it right here with exclamation points. It's the UConn Huskies. This is not the 3rd best team in the country. And this is a risky play because obviously they're back-to-back national champions. Danny Hurley has proved himself to be probably the best coach in college basketball at the moment. But with that being said, they lost so much talent. They are replacing a lot. And all of a sudden, I'm led to believe that Alex Caravan is supposed to be an All-American, Naismith Player of the Year candidate, and he's supposed to be this top draft pick kind of guy when he has been, the 7th option on multiple national title teams. He's just a guy that has been on these teams, and they're like, yep, next guy up, he's the one. I've watched Caravan play. Solid player, fine. He's not going to take you over the top and win you a national title. You know who will? Stephon Castle, Tristan Newton, Donovan Clingan, these NBA-level dudes. It's not going to be Alex freaking Caravan. Now, they are a talented roster around them. I like Mahaney. I'm curious to see how he fits in Danny Hurley's system. Mm-hmm. I don't think that'll be an issue. DR at point guard, that doesn't really necessarily excite me. And they also lose Cam Spencer, who was a huge piece last year. Where is the shooting coming from on this team, Ben?
I mean, the problem is, like, with a guy like Caravan, like, he's a spot-up shooter. And that's why I was just nodding along the entire time with, like, I think, right, Klingon, fantastic, both years. You got guys like, you know, Hawkins and Sonogo and, I don't know, Ball. Who's the third guy?
On the 23 title team?
Yes. What's his name again?
I'm blanking.
You know who I'm talking about, though. There's a third guy who went to the NBA on that team who started. Anyway.
We'll get stats department on it.
Yes. So Hawkins, Sonogo, like, and then you've got Klingon step in. You have Newton step up. I just think there's an assumption that, like, Diarra and Caravan are those guys now. And maybe even Samson Johnson. I do like Samson Johnson, but, like, he's not Donovan Klingon.
Yeah.
He's not Sonogo. I do like Terrace Reed. I do like that addition for them. Like, I remember I watched him in person a couple years ago when Michigan played Michigan State. You're like, that's just a big dude. Like, and I just think, like, he has a lot of talent. He was playing for Juwan Howard. So, like, I think he is someone who could be a breakout candidate for them. I really like Mahaney there. I love... Oh, we're talking about shooting? Where's shooting coming from? It's Liam McNeely.
You think?
I think so.
Yeah,
that dude's good.
That's fair.
He is going to take over. He's a freshman, but he's going to take over that, like Cam Spencer, oh my gosh, I hate this guy. And whereas everyone goes, ha ha ha, it's an extension of Dan Hurley on the court. That's what McNeely's going to be. You know how they're like, ha, they're like the same guy. Like, I've watched McNeely play last year at Montverde. Dude can shoot. He's cocky as hell. He's good though. It's like, this is a team that they scream top 5, probably 1 seed, but, like, I don't think they have the upside to win a national title. Like, they're just going to be like the 4th best team in the country. They're not going to be number 1.
And I just think the rest of college basketball has gotten that much better. When you look at college basketball last year, when we were doing our NCAA tournament predictions, we came to the consensus. We're going, well, obviously you picked Kentucky, but that's a wild card in there last year in the tournament where it's like
trying to be different.
Yeah,
a little bit,
but
you know?
There was no world where you go, it's got to be UConn, Purdue, as long as Purdue can get past Tennessee. That was it.
Yep.
That was the prediction you had to have. And now, before the season, obviously things will change. I don't think there's going to be a 1, 2, max 3 title teams. I think we're going to see 9 to 10, maybe even 11 potential title teams this year in college basketball.
I agree.
The other guy you were missing, Andre Jackson.
Yes, it was Andre Jackson.
Yeah.
He was just, like, blending in my mind. I'm like, I know the kind of player, but, like...
Yep.
Yeah,
so UConn's my most overrated pick. Last thing on UConn real quick, and we'll talk about a lot of these teams in the conference preview stuff right now in a second. UConn, Danny Hurley, this is the year. Rephrase this for the clip. You guys are listening right now. We're not going to cut this out. This is the year everybody is going to turn on Danny Hurley. This is the time when people are sick of winning and they're tired of seeing someone do well. We saw this with Pat Mahomes. I think Pat Mahomes is one of the most likable superstars. I think Steph Curry is one of the most likable superstars. After they won their second title, people despise those dudes. They could not stand those guys. Danny Hurley has been trying Dan Hurley, sorry. He has been trying so hard to be the Coach K villain. He's almost doing the Hunter Dickinson where I want to be hated so bad. I want everybody to hate me. He's pulling out all these whining excuses left and right. This is the year where it's not going to be cute anymore. People are going to turn on him.
No, they totally are. I'm surprised they haven't already.
It's because they're actually going to lose the season, and then you're going to see how annoying that behavior actually is.
Suck it.
Yes.
Suck it, dude. That's what everyone's reaction is.
When they lose on the road at Creighton, inevitably, that's when he's going to be sitting there going, we had to travel. Oh, our plane was 30 minutes delayed. The world is against us. You know, the NCAA, they delayed our plane. So all this stuff, all this whiny excuses and stuff. It's cute right now when you're winning. That crap gets real old when you start losing, Ben.
Yep, I agree. And they're going to lose a handful of games this year.
Yeah, they're not going to go 30-2.
Yeah, no, they'll lose 5 or 6 games.
Yeah, maybe more. We'll see about
potentially.
That. Potentially more. Most underrated.
I'm not proud of this one.
Yes! We have the same answer.
I love Arkansas.
Oh gosh, no,
that's not where you're going with this?
I thought you were going to say the Duke Blue Devils.
No. I would have hated that one, but they are kind of underrated, frankly.
But we'll talk about that in a second.
They are. No, but I love, like, the team that Arkansas is trotting out. I love Calipari kind of having, like, a little bit. Like, I think as long as he was at Kentucky, there was a degree of kind of, like, I'm safe here. I'm comfortable here.
Yeah.
And then it quickly became, like, no, you're not, buddy.
Yeah.
And so I think there's going to be a little bit of a revenge tour for John Calipari. I love the roster.
How much of this is one, a Calipari FU tour a little bit, but also because it did seem, I think Calipari just got stagnant at Kentucky. I think that was big part of it, and now he's probably re-energized and whatnot. But also with Arkansas this year and Calipari, I just think there's so much transition. There's not a single player returning, basically. I have concerns, and how much of you loving Arkansas was based on their exhibition performance?
A little bit, but I also do love, like, they have multiple of these Kentucky guys or Kentucky commits. You've got a guy, like, I loved the potential of a couple of these guys who didn't necessarily end up being, like, Kentucky star players. But when Big Z played for them last year, I was like, I love this guy. Like, he's so intriguing. Adu Thiero's in that sort of category for me. I don't think DJ Wagner's great. Like, I don't think he's fantastic.
Be a heat check guy.
Yeah, but I do think, like, I like him. He feels like one of those guys, like, kind of like a Duval for Duke, where you're, like, just kind of a knucklehead point guard when you get him for 1 year, and then you're like, this guy isn't ready, and then they leave, and then you're like, shoot. I love that a guy like DJ Wagner is coming back. Like, I think that's so good for the sport. I think it's good for him. I think it's good for John Calipari, because I think he's going to get better. The one guy that's intriguing, freshman Boogie Fland. He's good, but I will he's a candidate for next Caleb Love.
Oh, I love that.
He's an ultimate heat check guy. He's an ultimate heat check guy. Like, so I watched some of his AAU games because a guy on UVA was on his team and they were like co-point guards.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, who the hell is this guy? Like, he's just like clearing people out in Peach Jam, just shooting deep threes, step backs.
Calling his own ISOs.
Yeah, no, you're like, what is this guy doing? And then you've got Karter Knox. You've got Brazil still there, and you have John L. Davis. This is a stat, and Adu too is your starting center from Tennessee. Yep. There's just so much talent on this roster. I think this ends up being like a top 10 team. I really like them. I really like them a lot.
I like them a heck of a lot more than Kentucky, I'll tell you that much. But we'll get into the SEC in a little bit. Arkansas, John L. Davis doesn't excite me, to be honest.
Here's my one concern as I'm going through. I'm like, this guy and this guy and this guy. I'm like, well, that's a heat check guy. That's a heat check guy. That's also a heat check guy.
And John L. Davis, he's good. Maybe I just had I think also last year, when you're a team that makes a deep run like Florida Atlantic did, and then you come back the following year, I feel like it's very easy to get stagnant and bored when you're all of a sudden you're like, oh, wow, I was playing in the Final Four, and we were right there to play for a national title. Now I have to go on the road at Florida Gulf Coast for this game. Like, what are we doing here? Like, and there's 4 people in the stands during a December Florida Atlantic game. Like, this stinks. And so I think there's part of that, but also I just struggled with him in that NCAA tournament game last year.
No, that's fair. I will say, like, I'm catching myself,
but there is just a lot of talent.
I'm catching myself. A question. Am I just falling for, like, is this like an all-time, like, names team? You're like, ooh, that guy. Ooh, that guy. Ooh, that guy. Is this like a names team, and that's why I like them? Because they've got a bunch of, like, sexy names?
I actually think Kentucky is the names team. We'll get to that.
They're kind of up there.
They're a sneaky names team. Where
I'm excited for them to play each other.
College basketball sickos are going to know who they are, and then they're going to be like, we'll talk about them in a little bit.
Yeah.
I'll quickly go underrated here. I obviously said Duke. This just might have to bleed into our ACC conference preview real quick.
Let's do it.
But before that, let's take a quick break. Ben, let's do the ACC conference preview real quick. We're going to roll through these right now. We'll pick a conference winner. We'll pick a little dark horse and a favorite player in the conference type stuff. My most underrated team in college basketball as a whole, and I think they are the best team in the ACC right now, It is my Duke Blue Devils, Ben.
Yep.
They are I think might be controversial. I think they're the deepest team in college basketball, and I think they have the highest ceiling in college basketball. And we saw this Duke team last year. They still made the Elite Eight. Favorable path to the Elite Eight, for sure. No doubt about it. They still made the Elite Eight with no rim protection. Those days are long gone. They've got two excellent centers guarding the rim. They've got guards. They've got wing players. They've got arguably the best player in the country in Cooper Flagg. I really don't see a hole with this team. The only thing that can derail this Duke season is, one, injuries, and two, whether the point guards take up the ball too much. That's it.
Yeah. No, I think if you're going to have concerns, it's a little bit more on like the Caleb Foster, Tyrese Proctor front. A little bit, I think. I think that's where some issues exist. I think college basketball people are coming around to it.
Yep.
To this specific, you know where I'm going with this. I'm going to just anoint him as, quote-unquote, the Reed Shepherd of this year is going to be Con Knippel.
Yep.
There is a real chance. Reed Shepherd shot 52% from three last year?
Something like that.
Con Knippel can shoot 50% from three this year.
Without question.
He also should be the point guard of the team.
He should be the point guard.
He's their second best player.
That dude is automatic. He is just a machine when he shoots the ball. When you watch him play, you just look at him play and you go, I bet if he shoots in an open gym, I bet he makes 98 out of 100 threes when he's just shooting around.
Yep, and not that this matters. We're not these kind of people. ESPN likes to cover the sport this way. He is the guy who's going to get drafted 10th to 15th in the draft, and the team that selects him is going to be thrilled.
Yep.
They're going to be like, oh, this is kind of like an unathletic white wing, and it's like, nope, he has a great feel for the game. He's a fantastic shooter. He can score at all three levels. He can even play the point some. He's just fantastic. He's just so good. And we'll get into this later, but he killed Tony Bennett.
He might have killed Tony Bennett.
No, that killed him. Because he was a UVA lean until he committed to Duke.
Yep. I wonder why he flipped. Interesting. And I mean, it doesn't matter. He probably got outbid, and Duke's a better place.
Yeah.
But anyhow, Con Knippel, the Reed Shepherd of this year. I love that. He is a much, much, much better version of Luke Kennard, where he can just shoot the leather out of the ball, but he can also do everything else. Luke Kennard, he could shoot, just make a ton of tough shots. He couldn't really run an offense. He couldn't really run the point that well. His handles, fine, it's all right. Con Knippel can run the point. He can pass. He can dribble. He can shoot. He can really do it all, and he's big.
Yeah, he's a big dude. He's even slimmed out a little bit. When he was in high school, he was a chunkier dude.
You know what I love about this is that we're sitting here talking about Duke, and we talked about Con Knippel before, arguably the best player in college basketball and the guaranteed number 1 overall pick in Cooper Flagg.
Because everyone else is doing that.
That's true.
So I wanted to go a different direction, whereas people are going to be like, oh, it's Cooper Flagg, and then they've got Tyrese Proctor back. And it's no, that's not the guy. Con Knippel is the running mate.
What I love about this Duke team is it is so unselfish when you watch them play in their 2 exhibition games so far.
They're so deep.
And there's no headaches. Everybody's willing to pass the ball. With Cooper Flagg, he was willing to pass the ball. Con, Proctor, Foster, you name it. They're all willing to share the basketball. That necessarily wasn't the case last year with certain guys like Filipowski and Roach, where sometimes it was, I want to get my shot off. I want to, the Duke team last year wasn't as good because they kind of had to rely on Filipowski at times way too much. And Filipowski at the 5 is a disaster.
Look, they that was a team that wasn't doing great. They had to from 2 years ago, ran it back without Lively. After they got hot at the end of the season because Lively started playing better.
Yep.
And then they're like, oh, well, this is going to make it this great team. It wasn't really. I think morale was bad. They were a bad vibes team.
They were a bad vibes team.
For a large part of the year. I think a reset was necessary. I think kind of clearing house to a large degree was needed. You needed, Jared McCain, he was good vibes.
Jared McCain was the ultimate good vibes. If Jared McCain's not on that roster, it is we would have had some stories come out even worse than the Filipowski draft story.
Yes.
It would have been all-time bad stuff coming out of Duke. But also, we talked about Kansas and how Hunter Dickinson, it's just we know who he was. Duke with Filipowski was in the exact same boat last year where Filipowski, he could get burned on defense but also demanded the ball a little too much on offense, would stop the offense a lot. I think Filipowski's better than Dickinson for sure, but now it's just a totally different team. And also, this team is not going to have the same, hype that Zion and that team did. But I think they're going to have more hype than Paolo and those guys did. I think it's going to be somewhere in between there because you have two very hateable white dudes on Duke this year. Let's just call it like we see it. They're going to be the two best players on this team, and everybody is going to hate Cooper Flagg and Con Knipple.
Yes, and unfortunately, Con Knipple, I don't think he deserves it.
I think you just have a crush on him.
No, I do. I love him. When we're talking about the next Reed Shepherd, it's the next guy that I have a crush on. But with that being said, Cooper Flagg actually, he is a guy who kind of is blocking guys and he's doing the stuff that makes people hate Duke white guys. Con Knipple's not going to do that.
Celebrate after a dunk.
Yes, if you know how it is.
Be confident.
No, you know how it is, though. You know how it is. I'm not saying that that's just fair. It's just the reality.
That's fair.
If you are on Duke and you're white, you're going to be hated.
Yeah, and that's my point. Is that we finally have real hype going into this Duke basketball season. Where last year there was hype, but look, Filipowski just wasn't an entertaining player to watch.
No, he wasn't, and he wasn't quite at least for a large degree, he wasn't one of the more hateable guys until his court storming fiasco.
Yep, and that's when everyone finally they're like, yes, now we can turn on this guy.
Yes, they're waiting. They're waiting,
and
yeah. No, but there's a few other guys that I actually want to point out. They're not the high profile guys for Duke, but I think the thing that they were missing is role-playing transfers with a lot of experience. A guy like Mason Gillis, I think he is someone, having him around, even if he's not having a big role, he's going to help with his ability to shoot the ball. And then a guy like Malik Brown, he's kind of I don't know how you guys are fully going to utilize him.
Backup center.
He needs to be used as a center. Apparently a big reason why he wanted to transfer was because he wants to be used as a 4, which he's not really a 4. He's a good undersized center, fantastic rebounder, good in just great touch around the basket.
Yep.
He's going to be great for them as a backup center, and I think he's going to be end up playing a lot because however you pronounce his name,
Malawak.
Yes.
Malawak.
He's a prime candidate for
fouls.
Crap, he's got 2 fouls at the
his under 16.
His second foul was at 15:56 to send it to the under 16.
Yep.
Yeah, he's going to
And I'm sitting there cussing at the TV being like, "What the that's not a foul. You was straight up." Yeah, that'll for sure happen. But also, even if that happens, I'm not concerned with Malik Brown coming in. This team has so much depth. There's foul trouble. If there's injuries, it doesn't matter. There's always a next guy to step up. I really don't think there's a clear hole with this team. And they also have legit shooting. They have guys who can truly go one-on-one. When the game gets tight, hey, Cooper Flagg, go get a bucket. Yeah. Having that is so – we had it with Paolo Banchero. We had it with Zion and even R.J. Barrett to an extent, which sometimes his shot selection wasn't most ideal. But they finally have it. I think this Duke team is prime for a big, big season. I think they're the most underrated team. And I think when it's all said and done, I think they are going to be in contention for the number 1 overall seed in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, I think they're definitely in that mix.
I think they're going to be phenomenal. I cannot wait. Oh, man. Well, that exhibition game, Bobby Hurley, he stinks as a coach. They came out so unprepared.
They might be the worst team in the Big 12 this year.
And they have NBA talent, which is crazy.
They've got 2 5-stars.
Yeah. And you're like, Bobby Hurley, man, what is wrong with you? But, yeah, this Duke team, they're going to be good. They have a tough non-conference this year, though, too.
They do. Yeah, I don't want to get back on the on the whole how that's going to end up hurting Duke. They're not going to be the number 1 overall seed because they're going to be we determined the ACC sucks because Duke lost to Kansas by 1. So that means Syracuse.
I'll be honest. I think and this is going to come back to bite me. I think that is the only game Duke loses in the non-conference. is at Kansas and Vegas. And I don't even think they lose that game. I think they're that good. I'm very high on the Duke team. Obviously, I'm biased, and people are going to say, "Oh, Duke fan, of course." Wait till you watch this team, and then you're going to be like, "Oh crap." Let's talk about the other team in North Carolina, the other top team in the ACC, the North Carolina Tar Heels. A few things on here. They're small. They're a very small team. R.J. Davis back. Elliot Cadeau, can he make that big jump? Seth Trimble looked awesome in their exhibition game against Memphis. They got 2 big-time freshmen coming in. But you lose Armando Bacot. Look, Bacot, we know who he was. He's one of these Dickinson Filipowski characters in college basketball. But they really didn't replace him. Jalen Washington is now going to be the center here at Carolina.
I think there's a better chance. The thing with Jalen Washington is I do like Jalen Washington, but like he's one of those guys where you watch him as a freshman, he plays 10 minutes off the bench or 8 or something when Baycot's out, and you go, ooh, I like him. And then Baycott comes back, you're like, oh, okay, he's going to be good next year. Okay, let's go out and get someone in the portal. And it's like, okay, is this guy ever going to be their really their center? Because I think their starting center this year is going to be Van Allen Lubin.
But he could be great. They don't have a single player outside of 6'10" besides Jalen Washington.
Yeah, no, it's true, but I think
he's going to have to play that Norchad O'Meara role with Miami.
He is. That's what I was going to say. He's going to be like a Norchad O'Meara kind of player for them. I do think they go a little smaller because of that. And UNC doesn't traditionally do that. Hubert does things a little more modern than Roy Williams liked to do it. Roy Williams was a big, secondary break, 2 bigs kind of guy. Hubert Davis is kind of like Brady Manick. Like that wasn't really like a Roy Williams type of player. He didn't fit. None of these guys fit. Like, I do think, and I mean, the Roy Williams style. So it's going to be different. It's going to be interesting to see. Outside of R.J. Davis, I have questions about where they're going to get shooting from guards. Seth Trimble was great, but, I'm not sure if I buy him fully as a shooter. Elliot Cadeau, is a jumper away from being a fantastic player.
From being a All-American point guard in college basketball.
Yes, but I also think the shot's not particularly close right
now.
It's
his shots.
It's rough. Junior year feels like the year for him.
Yeah, because every Carolina fan, I think those were the 2 biggest things going into this season for the Tar Heels was, number 1, rim protection. That's a big concern, I think, for them. But also, can Elliot Cadeau have an honest jump shot? He doesn't need to shoot 35, 40% from beyond the arc. Shoot 28 to 31%. Shoot around there.
We actually have to guard you.
We actually have to somewhat step up and guard you because otherwise they can just sag off completely on defense. And we saw that multiple times last year. And also, he's so small, he can be a liability on defense between him and R.J. Davis. I'll tell you what right now. I'm going to be betting on so many Carolina overs this season.
Yep.
When it's Carolina versus whoever and the total is 148, hammer that over. Every Carolina game is going to be played almost like an Alabama team where they're played into the 80s and kind of like Kentucky last year because I think that's going to be their success for winning. But the issue is, like you said, where is the shooting coming from? Or can one of these freshman guards step up in the big way? I don't know. We obviously haven't seen enough of them.
Yeah, one guy I do like, he's going to serve more in a Brady Manick kind of role as Caden Tyson.
Yeah.
That's a guy who has a lot of talent. You do have, we're forgetting about the freshmen. Ian Jackson and Drake Powell. They're going to be good. That's probably where it comes from, right? But that's the hope, and I don't have any reasons to doubt that they're going to be really good. But I do think they were saved in a few games last year. He wasn't great for them, but there were a few games where you're like, oh, we're really lucky Cormac Ryan hit 10 threes tonight.
Yep.
Because otherwise we weren't winning.
And because I just don't think it's sustainable to keep having R.J. Davis shoot so much.
No.
And the other, what we haven't even mentioned too?
What?
Probably their biggest loss is losing Harrison Ingram.
Yeah, he was massive.
He was massive for them because even in games where Baycott would struggle, which happened quite a bit last season, Harrison Ingram could step up. He could even play the 5 role at times if needed.
Yeah.
He was getting rebounds. There were multiple Harrison Ingram double-double games, and that is a huge loss because he could also switch onto any defender 1 through 5 in college basketball, and losing him is huge. But I think these freshmen could be awesome. I think they're exciting. They're super freaking athletic. Oh, my goodness.
They're like Miami. from a few years ago.
100%. Yeah, they're a 22-23 Miami basketball team, and that's not a bad thing, but I think it limits their ceiling to not quite being a national title contender. They can make the Final Four. They can make it to San Antonio, but I don't know if they can really get over that hump when it's time to play a team like Duke the Duke-Carolina games are always a little different, but team with more size. Like, I would be fascinated to see Baylor and Carolina play this year.
Yeah. No, I agree. And Carolina's a team, like, I think they're primed to be like a 2, 3, or 4 seed. They're the kind of team where, like, they're a 4 seed and the 1 seed, like, Kansas is like, oh,
you gotta be kidding me.
Like, we have to play them in the Sweet 16. Like, we don't like this. Because that's a game, like, if I see that on my bracket, like, Carolina 4 seeds
100%.
beating 1 seed Kansas there, like, they're going to be a team, like, especially when it gets to March, that, like, I don't think they're going to have the regular season success that Alabama's going to have, but, like, they've got that same ability. I feel like they're kind of like Alabama from this past year.
Yep. And last thing I'll touch on with Carolina real quick, I just want this out there too. I am a big Elliot Cadeau fan. I think he is awesome. I think just the jump shot is just my biggest concern. I think he's got the tools to be one of the most elite college basketball point guards. He just has to develop. I mean, people make this comparison all the time. It was happening last year. He's got to have a Kendall Marshall-like jump shot at least.
Yep.
That is the key to success for him. If Elliot Cadeau makes that jump and he has that kind of jump shot where it's 30% from 3, we're talking about a totally different Carolina team. But the other problem is I have with Carolina is they really have 5 guards. When are these guys all going to play? Because this is why Carolina struggled so much recruiting top freshman talent. It's well, okay, you have a senior point guard like R.J. Davis that you're going to put in over me. You know, where am I going to be able to play it when you go to a Duke or Kentucky? It's like, hey, you come here as a freshman, you're going to play right away.
Yeah, no, I think they're going to kind of treat it like Cade Tyson is kind of like, he slides in as their 4, but it's like you kind of have 2 5 options and then like 1 through 4. And they're all kind of guards or have at least perimeter skill sets.
Yeah, and there's only one basketball, but like I said, if Elliot Cadeau can play that point guard role and dish the ball out, and there is another shooter outside of R.J. Davis, this team will be successful, but with the lack of rim protection and Jalen Washington – also a big candidate now that he's going to get more minutes to foul out immediately.
Yes.
And people will say, oh, Jalen Withers. I'll be honest. I am one of the most anti-Jalen Withers guys out there. I just don't see it.
No, he's just a glue guy.
He's a Louisville basketball player.
Yes. He's just a guy who comes off the bench, is going to play. Like, he should play less this year.
And I think
there's less of a role for him.
I think he's going to start the season out playing quite a bit, but I think as the season goes on, we're going to see a lot more Cade Tyson and Lubin, and like you keep saying.
Agreed.
So, all right, I think that's good on Carolina. We'll do one more team, and then we'll run through the rest of this ACC. Cool. Wake, they are the consensus number 3 team now that Tony Bennett's dead or gone. Whatever happened to Tony Bennett? Adios. Efton Reed, Hunter Sal's, Cam Hildreth, they're all back. Steve Forbes, can he finally beat the Seth Greenberg allegations of barely missing the NCAA tournament every year, but beating a Carolina or Duke to bump up his resume and losing to a Boston College right when it matters most?
I'm just remembering how you had said he's Seth Greenberg reincarnated, and he literally, like, did it to a T.
He did it to a T. And look, I'll be honest, the appearance helps too, making this comparison.
No,
he's a bigger bald guy. And you play for a mid-tier ACC, or you coach a mid-tier ACC team where you have pretty awesome talent, and you're winning these big games, and you consistently lose to the Boston Colleges, the Georgia Techs of the world, when all you have to do is beat them as a 15-point favorite, and you lose outright in March every single year and blow your tournament chances. This is not happening this year. This is when it changes.
No, this is when it changes. Like, I think they're a tournament team. They're like a 7 seed kind of team.
And they're a 7 seed that I'm going to pick to upset Kansas.
Yes. I love how we just keep using Kansas.
We did it last year too. It worked last year.
Okay. Yeah, no, you're right. Well, also they should have lost in the first round. We were yelling at the TV at 10 p.m.
Stanford, anchor. I love you.
Yes.
But anyhow, The other teams in that one region too, we'll talk about them. There's some other Big 12 teams I'm not as high on once I dug into it more. But Hunter Sallis, I think him and R.J. Davis and Cooper Flagg, the 3 clear options for Player of the Year in the ACC. And it's finally fun. I think we're going to have a legit elite ACC Player of the Year race once again, kind of like how we did in 2019 with all those guys and 2022 and whatnot. We're finally having, because last year it was like, okay, it's R.J. Davis. This year, I don't know if it's necessarily R.J. Davis. We'll find, because Hunter Sallis is going to be asked to do a lot now that Boopy Miller's gone. They got some other guys coming in. Also, the Monsanto headache's gone. I think Wake is going to be really good this year. Steve Forbes should be fired on the spot if this team is not playing in the NCAA tournament. If they do not get in on Selection Sunday, Steve Forbes, that is such an indictment on him because they're putting up money. Wake Sneaky has a ton of NIL money that nobody talks about. They're going to be in for these big recruits for a long time. But man, Steve Forbes, you got to make the freaking tournament.
If it's not now, it's never.
100%.
Yeah, I agree.
Virginia, life without Tony Bennett. Worley transfers. Mallory decommits. Still might come to Virginia, but decommits. Things are looking bleak in Charlottesville, Ben.
Mm-hmm. I think with Jalen Worley, to give some context here, his role was diminishing. There was Ron Sanchez had a preference for Day Ames to run the point, and Jalen Worley in scrimmages, he was primed to be a 30-minute a game point guard under Tony Bennett. He played 16 to 19 minutes in the scrimmages, and I think he's someone. He came to Virginia. A large part is he wanted to come. I think this is it's personal reasons where his girlfriend was in the area, and they're having a kid, and so that was a big reason why he came back.
Are they married?
No, not that I'm aware of.
Dylan is going to be upset about that.
Dylan's going to be very upset, but. Basically, right, you're a 1-year transfer. You transfer to come and play for Tony Bennett. Tony Bennett's no longer there. It seems like your role's going to diminish in your one last year. You have a lot going on because you're going to be having a baby and you're wanting a chance to play professional basketball. You might want to sit out and get one last shot at a situation where a situation that you signed up for.
Okay. Let's talk about the Tony Bennett part of things super quick.
Yeah, let's do it.
I think Tony Bennett's a great guy. I think he's awesome. I think he's genuinely such a good dude.
Yes.
I think it is a complete scumbag move what he did. I think he knew exactly what he was doing the entire time of making sure Ron Sanchez got his spot because Virginia was not – if he retires after that Colorado State game last year, Ron Sanchez is not going to be the head coach of the Virginia Cavaliers. He knew what he was doing the whole time. And I think that's a scumbag move to do to your players, to be honest, if that is what happened.
I don't think that's what happened. I still don't love the timing. I think in Tony Bennett's mind, he was I think he thought he was genuinely doing the right thing. Because he's 80% of me isn't good enough. I would argue against that.
So,
but
yeah, I would definitely argue against
yes,
that.
But
and Tony Bennett, the reason why he gets the benefit of the doubt because he's genuinely a good dude, everyone likes him. He's Tony Bennett, and whatnot.
Yeah.
If this was a Coach K move, people would have some questions and
for sure,
yeah,
for sure.
Because I think this is very alarming. And also people like to crap on the Coach K farewell tour, rightfully so. I think Coach K, he can be a little selfish at times, and I can see why he rubs people the wrong way and Duke's hateable and whatnot. But I think the farewell tour was the best thing to happen to Duke basketball at this current moment because every recruit, you heard Paulo Banchero on Pardon My Take today say, when Coach K recruited me, he told me, hey, 2022 is my last year. That's the last time I'm doing it. Coach Shire's coming in. So all these recruits knew what was happening way ahead of time. There was a lot of transparency there. I think that helped. Now, how the farewell tour went, that's a different story.
Yes.
But it was a great move, and he gets crap for it.
There's no transparency here.
No, and same with Roy and Hubert.
The players found out, and the players found out, I think it was 10 minutes before the Jeff Goodman tweet.
Shout out Jeff.
It was bad. Yeah, no, shout out Jeff for getting the scoop there, but
I think he was at Colonial Media Days.
Yeah, no, it was crazy because did you see that video where he looks down? They're interviewing Mark Few and he's like,
Oh, West
like,
Coast
one
Conference
sec.
stuff.
Yeah, he's like, 1 sec, and like walks out. Yeah, but like I do think I'm interested to see. There's going to be a lot of changes on offense that I'm curious to see. I think the roster, though flawed, is intriguing. It's a little more intriguing than in the past.
It better be more intriguing than last year. I saw that dog crap.
Yes, no, I agree. There was no talent there.
The whole world watched our eyes bleed seeing that Colorado State game, and that's going to leave a bad taste in some people's mouths, even though it's a totally different team.
Yeah.
Also, just wanted it out there, I am a TJ Power guy. I think he's going to be great at Virginia. That always seemed like a fit that was always going to happen. Only concern about me for Virginia is who's going to be your one-on-one guy.
Oh, that's totally like in the Virginia message boards. It's like, who's the guy who's just going to take someone off the dribble?
It's not TJ Power, I'll tell you that.
No, it's not TJ Power.
It's going to be Day-Day Ames, probably,
in the script.
right?
It's probably going to be Day-Day Ames. It's going to be, you're going to be like, a big emphasis on the offseason was like McNeely. Like, you got to start trying to be that guy a little bit.
But you saw what happened in the first four last year. When he starts forcing stuff, it can get real ugly.
Yes, especially because there's nothing else there.
Yeah.
It's like Isaac McNeely needs to force things. They do have one transfer who's impressed mightily is Elijah Saunders from San Diego State. He's a forward. He was kind of hidden behind Ledee, but San Diego State, like, he was primed to be one of their best players this year. Transferred out. He's going to be Virginia's one of their best two players. They've got a freshman-ish Sharma from Canada. He's a great shooter. He's going to play more as a rotational piece, but be a good shooter for them. Jacob Kofi, another freshman. So, like, Blake Buchanan, you're needing, some development out of him. Like, I think this is a team where it's like, I can see the pieces coming together and, like, okay, great, things are hitting, and they make the tournament as, like, a 10 seed. That's not, like, that feels like everything going right at this point, though, just because of no Tony Bennett, the roster not being great, because Tony Bennett, and then we can move on, but Tony Bennett, like, constructed this team as like, okay, continuity was huge under Tony Bennett. He's like, we can't do 4 years right at this point, right? So let's do a 2-year window. Let's get a group together where they're going to be together for largely like 2 seasons, or that we can keep them around. Like, this year was the development year. Next year was the be a top 1, 2, 3, 4 seed, potentially have a run in the tournament. And Tony Bennett left, and it's a 1-year team that was designed to win next year. So it's kind of a crappy situation because you don't even know, like, if they do look pretty good, like, does that even – it might not even mean anything, because a large part of these guys could be gone next year, whether they retain Sanchez or get someone outside.
They feel like this is no longer a – I think the interesting part about the ACC this year is usually you can pencil Virginia in as, oh, they're going to get that double bye and somehow sneak into that double bye in the ACC tournament. That is not happening this year.
Nope.
Real quick, let's move on, speed through the rest of some of these teams in the ACC. I just want to bring up Georgia Tech because I love Damon Stoudemire. I love the way they play. I love how intense they are. They're always involved in games they shouldn't be in, and then they fall when they shouldn't. But the fact that they are able to get up for those Duke and Carolina games and actually pull off those wins is very encouraging to me. I think he's going to be a great coach there, and that's really all I have on them.
Yep.
Okay? Miami, Nigel Pack and Matthew Cleveland are still at Miami. I think that is not loser and, like, they're, like, dumb, bad people. I think they are losers on the basketball court in the way they play. I just think it is we talk about, like, Cam Thomas in the NBA.
Yeah.
That Cam Thomas will never be a starter on an NBA Finals roster. But he'll put up 30 points in a game.
Yeah.
And Matthew Cleveland and Nigel Pack, I just don't see a world where all of a sudden they're these, like, elite culture guys for this team.
No, I think you're kind of, like, relying on a guy like Jaleel. I don't know how to pronounce the last name, but he's a smooth, good perimeter player. You've got Lynn Kidd from Virginia Tech.
Yep.
I think those are guys that help. I do think this is, like, a potentially, like, a tournament team.
I think they can be a tournament team,
Yeah.
but I don't think they are in that upper echelon. I think it's Duke, Carolina, drop off Wake, and then there's a drop off of 4 to 10. Where it's like, who knows what the F's going to happen here.
Yeah, like, you need Nigel Pack to, like, kind of, like, you almost need him to be like the second guard or perimeter option because we saw what happens when he's first. It's not pretty.
It is not pretty. NC State, they have an entirely brand new team. This is the team that had the most success in March last year. They won the freaking conference. They made the Final Four. Kevin Keats was knocking on death's door, and he said, psych, I'm going to win the ACC tournament. I'm going to beat Duke twice. I'm going to beat Carolina, and I'm going to make it to Phoenix in the Final Four. Brand new team outside of O'Connell, Middlebrooks, and Taylor. And funny enough, they bring in Dontrell Styles, who's at Carolina and Georgetown.
Yeah.
They got some
Forgot
other
about
guys.
him.
Mike James from Louisville. I think he's a nice piece off the bench. I think they're intriguing. They are completely unknown in my mind, and I am still not convinced Kevin Keats is a good basketball coach.
Yeah.
I think the culture and just the stars aligned in some weird way that just happens at NC State every 40 years, I guess.
Yeah, maybe I'm a hater. I don't anticipate this team making the tournament.
I mean, they finished, 12th last year in the ACC?
Yeah, they weren't good.
Another key point we didn't bring up with the ACC right now is, isn't it crazy that only 15 out of 18 teams in this conference make the tournament, make the ACC tournament? I don't like that, but at the same time, I'm like, man, 3 of you guys don't even deserve to make it to Charlotte.
Yeah, no.
But I don't think they're a team bad enough where they're going to miss the ACC because there are some bad teams in here. There are some bad teams.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about some in a little bit real quick. Clemson, Chase Hunter, Shefflin. They've got the European guy, Lacken or whatever, from Cincinnati. PJ Hall gone, Joe Girard gone. Clemson, I think they're going to be right in the mix. I think they could be in contention for that 4th spot in the ACC.
Yeah, I think so too. I think Miami's probably my choice for that. Georgia Tech is a team that, like, I like the style of basketball. We like, as you said, they're a team that feels like they're a program that's ascending. Notre Dame is also a program that's ascending.
I have Notre Dame written down. Yeah. I just don't know how much I love the talent, but I like their backcourt with Burton and Shrewsbury at Notre Dame, and I love the coach. I love the coach there. He's they're in that Georgia Tech tier where they're ascending, they're competitive, but they're not quite there.
Yep.
And I think in the future they're going to be great. But another team like that right now, maybe we'll see complete transition there. Pat Kelsey in Louisville. They've got a whole new roster there. And I think they're going to be competitive. They're going to beat some teams that you're going to be like, wait, they were a 10-point underdog and won that game? But I think their absolute ceiling is making the NCAA tournament.
Yeah. No, I agree.
And if
they
make
the
NCAA tournament, massive success for Louisville right there. Quickly run through some teams who are here. Syracuse, Eddie Lampkin is there. That's all I had to add.
Yeah, that steals one of my
transfer quizzes.
Yes.
This might also make it. Stanford and Cal are in the ACC if you didn't know, but you're going to find out on the CW real quick after Vampire Diaries. Jalen Blakes might be starting for Stanford. Jalen Blake's
too good.
The Duke, 9th man.
Yeah.
He is the projected starter at Stanford right now. I like Kyle Smith is the coach over there, right?
Yep.
Okay, I had to refresh my mind on that. I wasn't doing a lot of research on these bottom
He's
teams.
a good coach.
He's a good coach, but I'm sorry, Jalen Blakes is your starting point guard. You're not going to win a lot of basketball games.
Yeah, I don't think they
Hustle
have the
guy.
talent.
Cal, I love Mark Madsen. I like Stojakovic a lot. We'll see. I think the travel is going to play a big part in Stanford and Cal losing a lot of games this year. That's just not sustainable.
No, it's not. It's going to be an issue, but it could also break their way when they're playing at home.
Yeah. SMU, Boopy Miller plays there.
Yes.
Andy Enfield's there, who caused the whole coaching domino that led BYU to having potentially a number 1 overall pick next year. But
yes,
Boopy Miller plays at SMU, so he's going to put up a lot of shots.
Yep. Chuck Harris is a good player for them too. Their point guard, 6'3", 6'4". Very smooth. I like him a lot. So it's they've got 2 guards that I like, but
they're a team you can't overlook. But it's also we're playing SMU tonight on the CW. Okay,
and they're also you're gonna watch them sometimes. You're gonna bet on them and then just be like, oh my goodness, they're gonna lose to Cal or by 15.
Yep.
What in the world?
And then they go out and beat Carolina on the road for no reason.
Exactly.
FSU, I just wrote yikes.
I don't think there's anything else to say. They're going to be bad.
Leonard Hamilton's I'll just take the free paychecks. Why not at this point?
Yep.
Virginia Tech, they're also a team that
they're going to be bad.
They're going to be bad. I like Jaden Shute. I think he could be good. But Virginia Tech is just a team that is just the athletic department has said, we don't give a crap about you basketball.
We just care about our 7-5 football program.
Exactly. Boston College, all I had was gross.
Yeah, like they looked like going into last year, I was like, ooh,
they're a little competitive, yeah.
And then it just felt like, nope, no, they don't.
Syracuse and Pitt, I just wrote question marks, being like, I don't know. They're going to be completely different. Jeff Capel, just hanging around, man. He's just hanging around.
Yeah, I like the way he's recruiting. I like he gets like a lot of like very like heady guards who can just really score. Like a guy like Bub Carrington last year. They got
Blake
a guy.
Henson.
Like they bring in a lot of guys like that. So it's like I think they could be good. Like I could totally see them. But it's also a lot of roster turnover, so I could see it not breaking their way.
What conference do you want to talk about? Oh, we got to do picks real quick. Who's going to win the ACC?
I think it's Duke.
I think it's Duke as well. Best player in the conference.
I think
Don't say Con Knipple.
No, I'll say ACC Player of the Year. I think it ends up probably being Cooper Flagg, but I'll say Hunter Salas.
Okay, I was going to go Cooper Flagg, but I don't hate Hunter Salas at all.
Yeah, I'll do Hunter Salas.
I think there's no chance it's either on none of those three besides injury. If those guys are healthy, they're going to play. All right. That's the ACC preview. Let's move on. These other conferences are going to go a little bit quicker. Should we just where should we go next? Big East or SEC? What are you feeling?
Let's do Big East.
We're going Big East. Okay, I got to move ahead of my notes here. Big East, UConn. I already talked about them a little bit. We already went through them a decent chunk. I think they're overrated.
Mm-hmm.
I do not think they're going to win the Big East this season.
You don't?
No.
Who do you like here?
I like Xavier a lot. I'm talking
to win the Big East.
I think Xavier is going to win the Big East. They're going to either not the regular season. Regular season, I think UConn still does it. I think Xavier wins the Big East tournament this year.
What is it on Xavier that
they have so many different scoring options on that team. I think Sean Miller's finally hitting a groove there in Xavier, and I think they're being so undervalued. All the attention's going to be on UConn all season long, and then teams like Creighton and Xavier are going to just be – I think they're going to be so good.
Yeah. No, I think I really like Creighton. I think they're a little undervalued where they're at. Marquette is a team that I find intriguing. I feel like they're kind of getting ranked a little higher because of merit, I think.
Yeah, I think they're getting I had them as slightly overrated when I was doing my notes right here because I think Cam Jones is awesome. I think he's fantastic. Iguodaro and Tyler Kolek is just a brutal loss. When your entire offense is revolved around a guy who's a special playmaker and passer like Tyler Kolek was, those guys don't grow on trees in college basketball.
Agreed.
And so that's what I struggle with Marquette there. Xavier, like you said, you got Maddox, Connell. They have so many scoring options. They've got some great transfers. Traore from Long Beach, who averaged a double-double. I think they're going to be extremely intriguing this year. And if I end up going to the Big 12 tournament for football for the BYU game, Friday night they play TCU in Fort Worth. I have to go to that game. Yeah. I'm going to be a Xavier guy all season long. Just warning you right now.
Okay.
I think you're going to jump on the bandwagon very quick when you watch them play. Marquette, we kind of talked about. St. John's, they got Davion Smith from Utah. I like that. I love Patino, obviously. Patino teams are always going to play hard.
Kaderi Richmond.
I just don't know. I think this team can make the NCAA tournament, but that's about it. Maybe win a game in the 8-9.
Yeah.
And that's about as far as I can see them going for them. All right, and then we've got Providence. No Devin Carter, big loss there. I don't have much faith in this Providence team.
No, I like Kim English. Like I think he's a good coach.
Yeah.
Jabri Abdur-Rahim, they picked up from Georgia. He's pretty good. Like he can score a little bit, but like this feels like an NIT team.
Yep. Butler could be historically bad.
Yeah, they're gonna be bad.
Villanova, just yikes all around. I mean, like. Why is Wooga Poplar there? Like, why are we wasting Wooga Poplar with Kyle Neptune?
And why are we doing I feel bad. Like, I am bummed that we didn't get a year of Eric Dixon somewhere else.
Yeah.
He's back there again.
Yeah, they have two legit dudes. And, I mean, Kyle Neptune, man, like, the fact that he is still there, Jay Wright must have just said, guys, please, I promise this guy's good. And they're like, you know what, Jay, you did everything for us. All right, well, we trust you. We'll ride it out one more time with Kyle Neptune, which I think is crazy because I don't see it.
Too.
Seton Hall, they had too much roster turnover for me to believe in them, but, I mean, you're going to doubt Shaheem Holloway? Like, what are you doing here? Creighton, we haven't talked about them too much. Lose Baylor Shireman. They have Kalkbrenner. They have Ashworth back. I'll be honest, when I was doing the prep, I knew he was coming back because obviously he was recruiting Dallin Hall from BYU, but the fact that
how is he back?
How is Stephen Ashworth still playing college basketball? He's in that new tier now of, he's still around. All right. But I think they can be very good, and I think they can compete for the Big East. I
agree. I think they're, in my opinion, UConn's biggest competition.
I like it. The rest. And Pop Isaacs. That's a weird
It's a weird fit, but I almost think, like, if that hits, that's, like, a dimension they haven't really had.
That's true. I think that's fair. And also, like, were things weird at Texas Tech and stuff? We'll find out. But, all right, SEC, or let's do picks. I'm going to keep doing this for every conference. I'm going to keep forgetting to do picks. Big East, give me Xavier.
Okay. Big East, regular season or tournament?
We'll put it on the graphic and just say one of them because then we'll have both.
All right. Just say Creighton.
Say UConn so we don't look stupid.
Okay, I'll say UConn regular season, Creighton tournament.
Okay, all right. So yeah,
and then do whatever you want with the graphic.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'll probably put UConn for you.
Can we take a break for? Oh, sorry.
Quick player of the year.
Player of the year.
Maybe I'll go Kalkbrenner.
Okay, I'll go Kaderi Richmond.
All right, I love it. Before we get into the SEC, Ben, you said you wanted to change your Big East prediction?
Yes. I don't think they're going to be a very good team, but I think they're going to get monster numbers out of this guy. I think the Big East player of the year is going to be Eric Dixon.
Oh, I don't hate that, actually.
I like that better than Kaderi Richmond, so I'm going Eric Dixon.
I didn't want to pick anybody on UConn. I thought that would be boring.
That is boring, and also, like, I feel like people are going to be like, it's Alex Caravan's, like, miss me with that. Yeah, so.
Maybe Mahaney. Maybe.
Yeah.
Because also he wasn't allowed to do what he truly could at St. Mary's because they play like European Tony Bennett basketball over there. So
yes, they're kind of like Midwest, like Virginia and St. Mary's. They're always in recruiting battles for guys from Australia.
Yep, exactly. Yep. And yeah, exactly. I don't think we need to talk about that even more.
Nope.
Let's do SEC.
Let's do it. I'm excited about this one.
We talked about some SEC teams already. Alabama, we already talked about them. I don't think we need to touch on them anymore. They're the clear favorite in this conference. But we've got Auburn is the second team, according to most people. I have so many questions about this Auburn team. It genuinely feels like everybody forgot. Now, the NCAA tournament is a crapshoot. Last year typically doesn't matter. But it feels like every single person on planet Earth forgot that Auburn lost to a booty cheeks Yale team.
I didn't forget. I'll never forget.
They lost to a booty cheeks Yale team.
Yep.
That's what it was. And look, Broom's awesome. Not saying that. Who's passing Broom the ball? Who's going to get him the ball? Who's going to score? Bruce Pearl, typically good with guards. I don't know if they have it this year. You could say it's JP, I can't say his last name, Pegues or something from Furman. You could say that. I don't necessarily think so.
He looked pretty good when he caught that pass from Kihei and shot it.
Was that him?
Yep.
Oh, I didn't realize that was him.
I'm pretty sure it was him. I'm pretty sure it was him who did that. Yeah, he's good. I love
that guy. He won me a lot of money.
I do like Miles Kelly.
Yeah.
But you're talking about two mid-major guards taking the step up.
Yeah, and obviously it's an impossible task because everyone talks about, Dalton Connect, he went from Northern Colorado to being a National Player of the Year candidate. Well, it's like, okay.
That's an exception.
That is the outlier of this all. For every Dalton Connect, there are 50 dudes that make the jump from mid-major to high-level college basketball and struggle.
Yeah.
And so that's why I need to see it. It's a cop-out answer. I need to see it first, but I am not very high on this Auburn team going into this season.
Yeah, no, especially from a conference where I really like a lot of these teams.
Yep.
So I'm not sure if Auburn's like, slotting in as like a clear like 2 or something.
And I think this may be an unpopular opinion, but I think SEC basketball in conference games are the most fun games to watch as a neutral basketball fan right now. They
really
are
are.
intense. It's
they are
high
intense.
flying, a lot of points. Dudes are flying everywhere. The referees, sure, they miss a lot of calls, but they let them play, I think, more than any other league in this, especially more than the ACC.
For sure.
And so I love watching SEC basketball. But yeah, literally my number one question is, Broom's going to get his. He's going to get 25 and 10. He's going to have a big year. Who is passing him the ball? And I just don't know.
Yep.
And that's my concern. Also, where's the shooting coming from? We'll find out. Tennessee, this is life without Dalton Connect is going to be a lot less pretty. We're going to go back to what we all knew what Tennessee was. When that team that made it to the second weekend and beat Duke in 2023. That's the Tennessee we're going back to this season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I look at this roster, like, I do think another
Lanier.
guy, how is he still here?
Oh.
Zakai Ziegler.
Yeah, and you're like, and has he ever made it through an entire year healthy?
No.
I feel like
no.
it's just like, oh yeah, he's just on the sideline with a boot every single year.
Meshack was like, from what I remember, like, he was like a role player that was decent. Who was the other guy for them last year? There was another guard who actually scored. No, sorry, stats department will be on that one. But I do think like Chaz Lanier is the guy for them. I do think like putting Igor Milicic as the 4. Mm-hmm. That's a UVA legend, Igor Milicic. Mm-hmm. In Charlotte, it's a product of Ron Sanchez. So is Ali Khalifa.
I like Ali Khalifa.
No, but like I do think I'm just not seeing. This is a team that like probably make the tournament because they play gritty, hard-nosed defense under Rick Barnes. But I think they're going back, as you said, to the ugly offense that limits their ceiling.
Yeah, they're going back to being the Iowa of college basketball, where their games are going to be gritty, tough, and when they play against a team like Alabama, I'm going to be fascinated. When they play a team like Kentucky, I'm going to be fascinated because it's an elite defense that wants to slow it down versus a team that wants to put up 35 threes a game, ideally. And I think that's going to be fun to watch, just those singular games. Tell you what, the average Tennessee game, Ben, I know you know this. I don't know if the people know this. We're getting Tennessee, Virginia this year. That's not going to be pretty.
No, it's not. The Ron Sanchez, Igor Milicic. That's what everyone's tuning into.
I will predict the over-under right now. 112.5. 112.5 is going to be the over-under for that game.
And it should be under. Okay, so one of the guys who could like showed some signs of scoring, or where like I saw talent there, and he's actually back, is Jordan Gainey. Mm-hmm. That's someone who can score. They also have a couple other guys that I like JP Estrella. He was someone who was he committed to Duke? He was going to commit to Duke.
I can't remember. But Duke gets so many recruits; they all kind of blend in,
Yeah, no, he was like involved with them. Like he played some like spot minutes for him last year, and like I thought he was all right. Cameron Carr, he kind of stepped up a little bit in the tournament, like the Sweet 16 specifically. He's a sophomore, like I expect a jump from him. So there are some good players there, but like right, your ceiling's going to be limited when you don't have Dalton Connect, because I think you're basically asking Chaz Lanier to be Dalton Connect, and that's unfair.
Yep, and it absolutely is. I think the second weekend is the absolute ceiling for this team.
Yeah, and I still don't see that.
I don't see it either. Yeah. Florida.
I kind of like Florida.
I love Florida.
I kind of liked them last year, though, and they didn't really end up doing much.
So that's what I wrote down. If that Colorado game, the ball bounces a slightly different way, we're likely talking about a Florida team. I think they win that second round game against Marquette. I think we're talking about this Florida team in a totally different light. That Colorado game, I think, might have been the best tournament game last year.
Yeah.
102-100, game winner at the very end. Walter Clayton is one of my guys this year.
He's good.
Love watching him play.
He's super good.
He can dominate a college basketball game. I think Florida is going to be right in the mix. I don't think they're going to win the SEC. I still think that's going to be Alabama. But there's going to be a point where we're sitting there in February. It's like, ooh, Florida, Alabama tonight, the winner's going to take the lead in the SEC regular season race. I think they're going to be a legit team. They're a top 25 team right now, obviously.
Will Richard's a good player. You're bringing in Elijah Martin to, like, because basically a big thing about Florida last year is it was like, ooh, it's Riley Kugel. Like, that's the guy. And he was he was a massive disappointment, frankly, for him.
Yep.
I do think Micah Hamglotton getting hurt and being expected to redshirt this year, that hurts.
Yep.
Because he's really good. They do have that, like, they have that, like, that 7'9" freshman.
Yeah, I don't know what that even
anything
means.
about that.
But like, we've seen Florida State, they've had 7'4" dudes every single year, and has it mattered other than you're like getting mad at some dude named Ojo and you're like, oh my goodness, he just can't go underneath. The one game you play him, and then he plays against Georgia Tech, and he's awful.
Yeah. No, exactly. Like, I think my biggest question there, the backcourt 1 through 3 is going to be great. I have questions 4 through 5 because of Hamglotton, and they lost. It was a Seton Hall transfer in, like, Samuel, I want to say was his name, like, who played 4. He's like 6'10". So, like, I think they still have the size in the front court, but it's a little less experience than the 3 guards that they have. But the 3 guards they have, I really, really like.
Yeah, they're going to be a fun team to watch this season. I'm high on Florida. Kentucky. Mark Pope has arrived in Kentucky. He leaves BYU. Jackson Robinson follows. The only player to follow Mark Pope to Kentucky. They've got Karter. They've got however you say his name.
Andrew Carr.
They got Andrew Carr from Wake. They got Garrison from Oklahoma State. They've got Lamont Butler from San Diego State. We mentioned this.
They've got
Owe,
someone
yeah.
from Oklahoma.
Was he Oklahoma? I don't think was he Oklahoma? I can't remember. Anyhow, it doesn't matter.
I'm looking, but I'm pretty sure he's
irrelevant.
Oklahoma.
But anyhow, talking about Kentucky right now, they are the ultimate dude in your fantasy league where they're kind of a football casual, but you're still friends with them. They're in your league and stuff. They're not sitting there watching football every Sunday and whatnot, but they're in the fantasy league still, and you know how they're going to draft every year. They're only drafting based off names. They're like, oh, Alvin Kamara, you were good. DeAndre Hopkins is available in the 4th round. Holy crap, dude. I got to get DeAndre Hopkins. Or
they freak out every time, like, the Chiefs trade for, like, a 35-year-old. You know what I mean? Like, ooh, Juju Smith-Schuster?
But
yeah.
Drafting that way in your fantasy league is how Kentucky is this year in college basketball.
Yep.
All of these dudes are recognizable names. Jackson Robinson, Lamont Butler, Karter, Andrew Carr,
Kobe
Brea from Dayton. These are all recognizable names. I don't know how it fits, and they are the most glaring example of this was BYU's biggest problem last year, and it's going to be Kentucky's biggest problem this year. They don't have a single guy that can go one-on-one on this team.
No.
There is not a single guy you can say, hey, man, here's the ball, go get you a bucket. And I worry it's going to be Jackson Robinson's job.
Kentucky fans think it's Jackson Robinson.
And BYU fans are here to tell you it is not Jackson Robinson. He looked awesome in that Duquesne game. That was the outlier of last season. When it was time to go get a bucket, when he has to put the ball on the floor. Look, super nice kid, good dude. I think he's a
great player.
He's a great player.
Yeah.
When the ball
he'll play in the NBA.
When that ball hits the floor, he's a different player. He can't put that ball on the floor and go get you a bucket, but he can shoot 25, 30 feet out. He can shoot the leather out of the ball. He's a good mid-range shooter. He's a good deep shooter. I mean, he can nail shots, but
he just can't create.
He can't create his own shot, and I don't think anybody on this Kentucky team can. They're going to shoot a lot of threes. Mark Pope has his system down where he did at BYU last year, and he's going to stick by that, and I'm just curious to see how that plays out in Kentucky. But I think
they're interesting.
I think everything is going to be a breath of fresh air for Kentucky fans, just getting the Calipari stuff done. But when Mark Pope ends up losing a game he really shouldn't have, that's when all of a sudden the feelings are going to come back up. And you see Arkansas win a game, you go, did we make a mistake?
Or they lose to Arkansas. Well,
yeah,
also,
or they lose to Arkansas, which I think they will.
You know what's also going to factor into that? Kentucky fans, if they lose an early game they shouldn't, and then AJ DeBanza commits to BYU.
I don't know.
Their whole thing was, well, Mark Pope couldn't really recruit that well because he was at BYU.
Yeah, that's true. And we're as BYU fans, we're seeing it.
Yeah, no, but I mean, he did bring in a good transfer. I mean, it's just all transfers. I do think guys like Colin Chandler,
I don't think he plays.
Yeah, I think there's been apparently positive reviews of him in practice, but
Sure,
I'm not sure where the spot is for him. They've got good freshmen because I like Travis Perry too. Like he's a guy like a Midwest like point guard. Like I've watched some of his tape. He's good. Trent Noah, he's kind of like a poor man's Con Knipple, just like kind of big-bodied 6'5" 3 guard who shoots the lights out of the ball. But none of those guys are going to play. Like I'm talking about like their 10th, 11th, and 12th guys.
Yeah. They're not going to play, and also nobody can put the ball on the floor and create their own shot. You're not saying, "Hey, Lamont Butler, go get us a bucket." He's elite defensively, but also that's the other thing. Where is the defense coming from outside of him? Because there's a lot of guys on this team that don't wow you defensively besides him, and then who else? Garrison?
Yeah. I mean, like Carr. Like, Kirk Reese is going to be a bad defender.
Yeah, exactly.
Kobe Brea, I don't get like the sense he's like, but right, he's also like I feel like it's a lot of spot up shooters on this team. I do think you know what they remind me of? They remind me of a few years ago. I think it's the year. No, he didn't get fired. It's the Texas team that lost to 3 seed Purdue, where they're like a preseason top 10 team because they're like, ooh, they've got all these guys. They've got Marcus Carr. Remember, like they brought in all these guys, like, and then it was just sort of like meh because it was just sort of like a wrecked AAU team.
Yep.
I think Kentucky's like the same kind of vibe where like I could see him being a 6 seed that's kind of uninspiring. They've got all these names. They've got all these players. But
I think that first
they don't have the guy to create his own shot.
I think that Tuesday night in Atlanta in the Champions Classic against Duke is going to be the biggest wake-up call for Kentucky fans in a long time. They thought Oakland was a wake-up call. We might be seeing Zion 2019 2.0.
Yeah, I could totally see it.
It could be a disaster. But let's move on. A&M, Wade Taylor is back somehow, some way.
I love Wade Taylor.
You must love Caleb Love then. Same thing, just smaller.
but he's not Caleb Love.
He is Caleb Love. He takes 1 billion shots. He's Cam Thomas.
No, he does, but he. No, I don't like.
Wade Taylor without Boots Radford this year. Why is this Arkansas team supposed to be this A&M team supposed to be better?
No, I don't think they are.
Okay.
I just like Wade Taylor. Like I just like he's a guy who
he's exciting.
He's able to score,
and he also cashed an over for me when he sent that game to overtime.
And Henry Coleman like still there. He is what he is.
He is what he is. He's undersized.
Yep.
Ole Miss, Chris Beard there.
They're interesting.
They're weird. They're a sneaky like. I don't know. I like. They're not gonna sniff title conversations.
Nope.
But like, I think the floor is definitely there for them. But I think Chris Beard is such a good coach. I just never want to bet against them.
Yeah, and I do like he's. Like, the upside isn't massive, but I do like giving Chris Beard a guy like Sean Padula. I think he is able to be kind of like a stabilizing presence for them. A player that I really like for them, it's going to be their center, Malik Adia. Who's have you seen stuff of that guy? That guy is just like a physical, just monster. Like, I think he's going to break out. Like, I think he's a first-round draft pick. It's going to be fun watching when BYU plays Ole Miss, getting a chance to watch those two teams match up, but like I think Malik Diaz is like a first round pick. Ole Miss is a tournament team. I'm not sure if I love them like as anything more than that.
Yep.
A&M, it's like I'm a little down on. I do find Ole Miss intriguing. I think them being ranked kind of like what are they 24?
Yeah.
They people that seems about right to me.
Yeah, I think that's right. Texas, they got a bunch of transfers. They could be very talented. We'll be quick about Texas. I think Rodney Terry is one of the worst coaches in America. I think he had so much talent last year on that team, and I think he got exposed. I think he got outcoached in almost every single game in the Big 12, and that's going to happen again in the SEC this year. Look, they have talent. They've got names on their team, but guess what? It's still a Rodney Terry coach team, and they're going to wish they still had Chris Beard at that program.
Yeah, like you've got Jordan Pope coming in, right, from Oregon State.
Yep.
Yeah, so like he was really good. He put up numbers. Like, I I think he'll be good for them,
They have
too.
like Kaluma, and they have
Shedrick's still there.
and then the dude from Arkansas,
Tremont Mark.
Yeah.
Was Tremont Mark the guy who scored like 30 against UNC?
Yes.
Okay. Like, I think he's good, but like, again, we talk about like how do all these players fit together? I'm not sure if it's there. I'm not like some of these guys that stick around like forever. Like in my mind, their stock almost drops. Like I'm like Arthur Kaluma. I'm like,
Yeah.
Like at Creighton, I'm like, that guy's fantastic. Now I'm kind of like,
But and then also
he's still good.
Unless you go to a team like a Bill Self coach team, that's when it's an issue, or that's when you're like, okay, maybe Bill Self, John Shire, some of these elite coaches. When you go to a Rodney Terry coach team, that's where I have an issue.
Mm-hmm.
Mississippi State, they got Hubbard back. Tris Jans loves to slow down the pace and play that kind of style of basketball.
Riley Kugel.
And they could be good. I just don't know if their style of play warrants them ever reaching a higher level than what they are. Like, I think their floor is there, but I think their ceiling is the second round.
Yeah, who was their best player? Who was that guard who's really good for them last year? Hubbard. Is he back?
He's back.
Okay, for some reason I thought he went somewhere.
And
Never
then
mind.
South Carolina, Lamont Parrish back as head coach. They lost a ton of guys there at South Carolina, but I just think he's an awesome head coach, and I just wanted to mention that. I don't care to talk about anybody else in the SEC, so let's pick a winner. Who's your winner of the SEC?
I'm going to say it's Alabama.
I'm not going to think twice. I'm going to say it's Alabama. And Player of the Year, Mark Sears.
Yep.
All right, let's not overthink it. I wanted to go Walter Clayton and be different, but I'm not going to. I don't want to be too different right there. All right, let's move on. Let's knock out the Big Ten real quick.
Gold Star.
This is going to be the quickest conference preview you guys have ever seen when we talk about the Big Ten, because I think this conference stinks.
Yeah, like I think they are going to get some teams in the tournament more than
they should.
Most people will think preseason. They've got a lot of tournament quality, like 6 to 11 seed type teams. None of which I see. Like I could see a scenario in which they all lose in the first weekend.
Yes, 100%.
All of them.
And this is going to be a year where not quite as much as I hated Mountain West last year, but they're going to be an all-time. I am going to be pissed if they get 8-9 teams in when they all are just bang average and everyone's like, oh, the Big Ten, it's so good this year. And they're just beating up on each other.
Yeah.
Like the Mountain West did last year.
Who do you like the most in the Big Ten?
I still like Purdue the most. I'm a big Braden Smith fan. I think Kaufman-Renn can be good for them. I think they're going to play a much more fun style of basketball. Maybe it's not as good, and maybe it doesn't. It doesn't win them as many games. But I think Braden Smith is a stud at point guard. I think in some ways, Zach Edey almost hurt his potential of what he is. I think he helped him out because it makes his life a lot easier, but I think it hinders his potential. But I think he's going to be awesome this year. I believe in Matt Painter. That means I just don't believe in a lot of these other teams. Like we can talk about Indiana. I think they're the biggest boomer bust in this conference because a lot of people are very high on them, and rightfully so. You got Ballo, you got Miles Rice, you got some legit dudes in there.
Mbako, Malik Renau, like those guys are all still there. But yeah, no, Cannon Carlisle from Stanford. You find out like, Stanford had like these 4 guys that were actually pretty good.
Stojakovic, I loved him.
Yeah, Brandon Angel, who's at Oregon now. Like they've got a bunch of guys. But
Oregon, they're another team that you forget. This is conference realignment's not as weird watching college football this year. It is
Big Ten team Oregon.
Big Ten team.
I forgot about that.
Like basketball.
It's weirder in basketball.
Basketball is when it's going to be extremely weird.
Yeah.
When I'm watching Washington Rutgers on a Tuesday night, I'm like, Big Ten, what the
Well, you're like Washington Rutgers, and then you're like, wait, I'm watching Ace Bailey and Ron Harper Jr. versus Great Osobar.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Which that'll be kind of fun, I guess.
Yeah. It'll be on the Big Ten Network.
Rutgers, another team. Look, 2 awesome players. Outside of that, I really don't see it with this roster. I think it's.
I don't know anything about them.
Like I watched their full exhibition against St. John's, and really, I didn't think anybody outside of those 2 dudes showed anything to me. And when you get 2 legit NBA guys like that, it shows that, like, hey, man, you still need to build out the rest of your roster. You still need, a true point guard. You still need some shooters off the bench, some bruisers, some big guys and rim protectors. I have real problems with Rutgers, but I'm going to tune into Rutgers games just for those 2 dudes.
They have 2 really good wings.
Yeah.
Yeah, but, like, Indiana is, like, one team that I find intriguing. I do also think, like, last year there was a big dilemma with Michigan State was, like, okay, they keep playing they're old guys.
Yep.
And like they're young star freshmen, they're not really breaking in. I mean, right? They didn't have the one and done type freshmen. They had like the ranked 15th.
Yeah,
they're ranked 15th to 25. So I am interested to see like a front court that's going to be looking like Booker and Carr, and just see what these young guys after a year of being with Tom Izzo, how they look. I anticipate Michigan State's probably going to be the same thing that they are, which is 7, 8, 9 seed that you don't really want to play in the second round. Even though
it hasn't really happened in the last
even though it's
few
like
years.
you don't want to play them, but like at the same time you're going to beat them by 10.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
We nailed it with them.
Yep. Illinois,
I think they're the European prospects over there. We don't know the eligibility stuff with them going on right now. I think they're cleared, but who knows? Illinois could be very interesting.
Kylan Boswell, I really like him.
They're another boomer bust team in this conference.
Yeah, they also have transfers right. Like I think I saw John Fanta say Ben Hummerkaus as being like an Evansville transfer that could be like Dalton Connect. Like I don't see him being Dalton Connect, but like that's a guy.
I don't see anybody being Dalton.
That's a guy who can score. Who'll probably be a double-digit score for them. They got Trey White from Louisville, who's pretty good. So there's some talent there. Booth, transfer from Notre Dame. They've got some talent, but you never know. It's Illinois.
Yep. Oregon, we briefly touched on them.
Yeah.
Dana Altman might be on the hot seat.
No, but they were like they kind of put up a they put
up a real good fight against Creighton.
Yes, so like I kind of think like I think he's fine. I think have you ever heard when Tony Bennett retired and you heard there's a lot of like NCAA coaches who like don't like the way it's being done and like might hang it up. Dana Altman feels like one of those guys.
Yeah, he kind of does.
Yeah.
And also with Dana Altman in Oregon, we forget about these Pac-12 teams moving into new conferences, how effing terrible the Pac-12 was last year.
So bad.
It was horrific basketball last year.
Arizona.
And like Washington State was weirdly one of the best teams. It was.
Speaking of which, what are your thoughts on UCLA real quick? Big Ten team UCLA.
I kind of like him.
Yeah, Kobe Johnson.
Like
Sky Clark.
Sky Clark, yeah. Like I kind of like him. You know,
Mick Cronin's a good coach.
Mick Cronin, like maybe he's got a little FU in him, and maybe they use the travel thing to their advantage. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll be curious to see. I don't have a real strong take on UCLA coming in.
I don't
year.
either.
I don't think you can.
Yeah.
In some of these teams, you can.
Who else? Ohio State. I like Ohio State.
Love Sean Stewart.
Yeah, Sean Stewart. You got Michi Johnson from South Carolina. Oh, who else do they have?
And you
they
bring
have a few
back
transfers. You bring back Bruce Thornton,
and then you
I like him.
You bring back your interim coach. We'll see how that works out.
That always feels
yeah
to me, even though like he earned it.
He earned it,
but
sure.
But I feel like guys earn it, and then like it doesn't, and then it feels like it was lightning in a bottle.
Well, we're seeing that with Rodney Terry.
They also have Aaron Bradshaw.
Yep.
Who's a talented guy. That I knew I was missing someone. They've also they're a team that's got names. Oh. Okay. No, never mind. Keep going.
I was gonna just say I got one more thing, and then Maryland, by the way, that's all.
Yeah, I don't have anything to say about Maryland.
Michigan, Dusty May.
They got Wolf.
They got Danny Wolf from Yale.
Yeah, and they've got they've got Golden from FAU.
That does not make me feel better.
No.
they're gonna I like Dusty May as a coach. I think they're in that Georgia Tech Notre Dame tier where like they're feisty.
Wolf was awesome at Yale, but like at the same time though, like
you played at effing Yale. What are we doing here?
Yeah. But like also like right, he was awesome at Yale, and there's some of these mid-major guys that go up and it's like they're destined to be good. Well, like an unathletic like 6'8", like transferring from Yale up. Like yeah, I get like the appeal for like Michigan, but like he's transferring up and he should be playing like 10 to 15 minutes.
Yep, exactly. 2 questions and then we'll end up or one question, then we'll wrap up with the Big Ten here. How many teams can win this conference this year?
4. I'll say 4.
Purdue, Indiana, UCLA.
I was thinking Illinois maybe. Like I think if things
Ohio State.
I think they could.
Michigan State.
Yeah, maybe 5.
Rutgers.
No.
Okay, I think it's 5 as well. Mm-hmm. I think it's those 5.
4 or 5.
Let's pick our winners and player of the year. I told you this was going to be a quick one right here. Big Ten winner.
It's a week this feels like kind of like when Tony Bennett didn't have his best teams and still won the conference because it wasn't that strong. Like, this feels like a 4-seed Purdue wins the Big Ten.
Yep, that's my pick, and I'm picking Braden Smith Player of the Year.
I will follow suit.
All right, we're going unanimous there.
Right way.
I wanted to pick one of the Rutgers guys, but it's just, will they be good enough to be even in that conversation?
I want to say others to be considered is like maybe Miles Rice.
Yeah,
like if things went well, or
I don't think Ballo can be in that conversation.
Michi Johnson.
Maybe
I like him.
Maybe
anyway.
someone, one of the European guys from Illinois.
Yeah.
But all right, let's talk about Big 12 and then let's wrap up. Actually,
cool.
Let's take a quick break. Let's do the Big 12 now. We already talked about Kansas. We've done that. We've done them. We don't need to talk about them anymore. Houston. I have a lot of problems with this Houston team.
Really?
They are the exact same team for the most part. They just bring in, I can't pronounce his name, Milo Uzan.
Yeah.
Milo Uzan, whatever his name is.
Is he from Oklahoma too?
He's from Oklahoma as well. They lose their best player. We saw what this Houston team was in the second half of the Sweet 16 without Jamal Shead. That's the Houston we're getting this year. That's a bad Houston team. Yes, they're coached by Calvin Sampson. They're going to defend their butts off. They're going to win a ton of regular season games. They always do, no matter what. They're going to be a tough out. I'm not saying they're not going to make the tournament type of team. They are not the fourth best team in this country by any means. They're not the best team in the Big 12 in my mind. I think Jamal Shead covered up so many holes for that team. He was so good, and especially we saw that in the second half of that Duke game especially. We saw all year. I thought he was the best player in the Big 12 last year. I think I voted him Big 12 Player of the Year. I don't know how they're supposed to replace that. I'm very down on this Houston team this year compared to most people.
Really, I see it just because, like, I think, right, you see Houston brings back 4 of their top 6 guys, and there's just an assumption, okay, top 10 again. I do think you're gonna need a running mate with Cryer.
And
is it Uwe? Like, is that him? Like, is he that guy? Like,
are they? Yeah, can he fill that Jamal Shead role? I don't think he can. And I really don't believe in the rest of this team that much. Like Emmanuel Sharp, Francis, all these guys. Cryer is a liability on defense, and that Jamal Shead was covering up holes for him on defense consistently. And
it's gonna be ugly games.
They're
gonna win. They're going to muck it up with a lot of teams, and they're still going to win a lot of Big 12 games that way. They feel like a 3 seed.
I would not be surprised if this team did not get a double bye in the Big 12 tournament. I'll say that right now.
Okay.
I am not high on this team. They're going to win a lot of games. They're probably going to go undefeated, and they're going to be number 1 in the country at some point this year because they just murder every single bad team they play, and they're a Big 12 team, so apparently you have to schedule the worst teams in the country if you're a Big 12 team.
Yes.
And they're going to beat up on those teams, win 70-30, and look great on Ken Palm.
Yep.
But I don't that's where Ken Palm's, that's the outlier for me where it doesn't really necessarily match the eye test for me, and I think there's a limit with them. The team, I love this team, Ben. I think you love this team, Ben. I think we are going to be all in on the Baylor Bears this year.
No, we are. Baylor's going to be awesome. I think Jeremy Roach is going to be playing his natural position. You add a guy like Norchad Omier, who, although undersized at the 5, we see what kind of element he brings. He still brings rim protection. He's a rim runner. Mm-hmm. Like, I just love the way he plays. And I do think that you're potentially, outside of Cooper Flagg, I think potentially the second best freshman in the country might be VJ Edgecombe. He was playing this past summer for the Bahamas, which had like guys like Buddy Hield. I'm trying to think. They had multiple NBA guys, and like Edgecombe was the guy they were going to in crunch time situations.
My only concern with this Baylor team is, one, rim protection might be an issue for them. Yeah. But also, shout out Baylor for fixing the camera angle. Apparently bullying works, Ben.
Yeah, because, dude, that was rough.
That was awful. They're built like a Miami team. Like we said, they're built like Carolina in a way. Just supremely talented. 1 through 5, 1 through 6. But what happens after 6? That's my concern with this team. There is no depth on this roster. One player goes down, yikes. They are in trouble.
I agree.
Any of them. Especially, I think Omier is going to be their most valuable player because they really don't have another guy that can play that role this year. And, Nunn and Roach and Edgecombe, they can all step in and play that role a little bit. Langston Love has got to step up in a big way this year. But I think Baylor's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
So,
no, I love Baylor too.
I think they're going to make a run. I don't think they're going to win the Big 12 regular season, but I am going to pick them to win the Big 12 tournament.
Yep.
So there's that. Arizona, we've got Caleb Love back one last time. The farewell tour, one last ride with Caleb Love.
The last dance
with Caleb Love. They lose Boswell, Larson, and Ballo. Massive, massive losses. They bring in Trey Townsend from Oakland. The real reason why Oakland won those games outside of Jack Golke.
Yep.
But can he make that jump to the best conference in college basketball?
I think he can and be pretty good, but I don't think he's going to be their number one option.
And I think this is just a classic example of Caleb Love, you're going to live and die by this guy. He is going to win you games, and he's going to lose you games. That's very simple analysis, but if you've watched Caleb Love over the last 3 years, you understand that to a T. He's going to shoot you out of games, and he's going to shoot you into games. And that is why Arizona, behind Caleb Love as their best player, will not be a national title contender. But they can make it to the second weekend, no doubt about it. But when Caleb Love has that eventual 2 for 19 night, you can't overcome that. I don't think they have the talent around him to overcome that either.
I think they are going to really need Jaden Bradley to break out this year. He's a good player. They're going to need him to break out. I do like Toby Awaka as a depth piece, and then they got Anthony Delaroso, who came from Campbell, who put up a lot of points and was just a very smooth wing scorer, 6'6". Right, but these guys are bench guys. I do think this is a talented team. They're a top 15 team, but they're maybe not the Arizona that they've been the last few years.
Yep. Iowa State, Kansas, and BYU, for me, have the best home court advantages in the country. I think Iowa State's might be the hardest place to play in the Big 12. They basically have the exact same team. Lipsey's back. Basically, everyone's back. They added a couple pieces as well. They're going to win a ton of games this year.
I love Iowa State.
Yeah, it's hard not to.
I love them. I mean, right, you've got Lipsey back. You've got, Kayshawn, Gilbert, Curtis Jones. So it's, a lot of returning. It's, it kind of reminds me of, bringing, Marquette did, last year, bringing a lot of guys like that back. I think you're going to need, for Iowa State to hit their full ceiling, they're going to need Milan Momcilovic to, expand his game a little bit. He was a good, I think Iowa State's a hard-nosed, right, defensive team. He kind of changed things up a little bit and being more of an offensive, can't really defend, but kind of skinny, but silky smooth jumper. He's a guy that I think is gonna potentially be a sophomore breakout candidate. There's a lot of good reports of Deshaun Jackson, is his name, the starting center. He's
the wide receiver.
No. Not the wide receiver that drops the ball at the one of punt returns. Deshaun Jackson, I think that's his name. He's 7'1", 260, big dude. Just this is a physical good team. They bring in Josh Jefferson, St. Mary's best forward from last year, where when he went down, St. Mary's wasn't as good, and he's coming off the bench for this Iowa State team. Mm-hmm. So I really, really like Iowa State, as a 1 or 2 seed. They're a national championship contender in my mind.
Ooh, national championship contender.
I love Iowa State.
I think there's this the way they play, I think there's a ceiling with them. I think I was not high on this team. They proved me wrong last year to an extent.
No, I wasn't high on them last year, but I really like them this year.
Because I remember I got flamed online when we were doing March Madness stuff, and I said, there's not going to be a single Big 12 team in the Elite Eight or Final Four. Brother, that came true.
Yeah, it did.
But this year I think there's more elite teams.
I think there's more upside to the conference this year.
I think there is too.
Maybe not as deep.
Kansas State, this has disaster written all over it.
All one of the best names teams this year.
And
Doug McDaniel, Coleman Hawkins.
They're asking Coleman Hawkins to play the 3 this year. That's just not going to go well. Look, Coleman Hawkins, he might be a good guy, a nice guy and whatnot. I just think he's the most overpaid player in college basketball.
No, because it's a guy who's never been the best player on his team, and it's okay, here's $3 million or whatever.
Yeah, $3 million. What are we doing here?
Housen or whatever, Brendan Housen, Kansas State, or not from Kansas State, from Villanova. Like, he's someone that I think could be good for them. I'm trying to think who else. They have Acre.
They do have Acre.
They have Acre. Like, I think this is a team that, like, I wouldn't be shocked if they missed the tournament. I do think they get in, but I'm not like the biggest Kansas State guy.
I think this could be a disaster season for them. Cincinnati, I love Cincinnati.
I really like Cincinnati too.
I love Wes Miller. I think he's an awesome head coach.
Jizzle James is still there.
Jizzle James coming off the bench. You got Dan Skillings. You got Aziz Bandango, one of the best rim protectors in the country. You got Day. You've got
Mitchell came from Texas. Dylan Mitchell. Yep. Who's the guy that they had? Okay, I'm looking. There's a guy they brought in, or they have C.J. Frederick. Did they have him last year? They did, because he was on Kentucky 2 years ago.
Was he on?
He was on Iowa, and then he was on Kentucky briefly.
Okay, I couldn't remember if he came from Iowa and then.
I love what's that, Simus Lukausius.
Oh yeah,
guy.
he can just get hot.
Yeah, like he's not super athletic, but like he's got some size, and he can just score. They're going to be like a clear tournament team. They're going to make the biggest jump out of the Big 12 teams.
They are
like most improved team.
They are in that same category as Wake Forest, where Wes Miller and Steve Forbes, they have got to make the NCAA tournament this year.
Yeah.
It's got to happen, and I think they will. And I think Cincinnati.
So too.
I think Cincinnati's going to be an extremely tough out in the Big 12. I think they could
6 seed in the tournament. I see that.
I could see them finishing as high as 2 or 3 in this conference.
Yeah, they're really good.
And if they finish 2 or 3, they are a 3 seed.
Yep.
So we'll see about them. BYU. I've talked a lot about BYU. Go check out Church Ball, Field of 68 podcast. If you want to hear my thoughts on BYU, you can go check that out. Ben, any thoughts on BYU?
They're good. I mean, you've got Yegor Demon coming in. I think Richie Saunders is going to break out this year. Dallin Hall gets to play a little off ball. You get like a true rim protector that they didn't have last year. They had a weird, like effective but weird 5 situation with Ali Khalifa and Foose. You're bringing in Kiba Kita to work with Foose, which feels like a Tiki Ali Atiki upgrade, and like, I mean, he definitely is, but it's like a better version of that, like strong, stout rim protector, athletic. Cannon Catchings, I think the question's going to be, there's like Boskovic, the Serbian guy that they brought in, like there's eligibility concerns there, but Cannon Catchings, Mag. Like, this is just a team that's really deep. I don't think they maybe necessarily have the regular season success that Mark Pope's BYU team had last year due to continuity within the system with the players. I do think there's going to be some learning curves early in the Big 12, but I think this is a team that easily makes the tournament and is a team that a 1, 2, 3 seed does not want to play in the second round.
I agree with that. I think this team, I think they had the sneaky highest ceiling out of a team that's not being talked about in college basketball right now.
Yeah.
When you're picked 9th in the Big 12,
they're better than that.
They're better than that.
They're like 6. I could see 6 or 5. Like,
I'm
gonna say 6.
I'm higher on this BYU team than most. Obviously, I've talked about it at nauseum at this point. BYU finally has one-on-one players. They haven't had that since Jimmer Fredette. They have pieces that all fit together. They have rim protection for once. They have guys at the end of a game say, here's the ball, make it happen.
They're constructed like an NBA team.
Yes.
That's the point. That's what Kevin Young's trying to do there, and it's going to pay dividends.
And we talked about doing like an Our Guys segment. Who are our guys? Look, this is going to be both of our guys. I am so high on Yegor Demon this year.
Yep.
I am over the moon high. I think he's got elite point guard skills for a guy who is 6'8". He can shoot the ball. He can dribble. He can pass. He can rebound. He can defend.
The part.
He just looks the part. He's calm, cool, collected. I think there is a world where he ends up being the 2nd overall pick in the NBA draft.
I think it exists. I think he's more like just top 10. You're very high. Like, I'm higher than most on. I think he's getting majorly slept on because he wasn't on the AAU circuit.
Yes, I'm telling you, this guy is just different.
You're high. I think like I'm higher on them than expectations, but maybe not to the extent that you are.
Yeah, and we'll find out.
And that's not me being critical. It's just you're insanely high on him.
I am insanely high on him. BYU as a whole, I think they can be a second weekend team, though.
Yeah, they for sure can.
Texas Tech, real quick. Federico's there. JT Toppin.
That was my number one transfer quiz. Where's Federico? Okay.
Texas Tech, I think they'll be solid. They'll be a tough out. Lubbock's a tough place to play. That's all I have on Texas Tech.
They give 10 seed vibes.
Yeah, and they're going to be a fun 10 seed. Arizona State, we saw them play against Duke.
They are booty.
Yeah, they might, but they're not. They're not the bootiest in the conference. The Big 12 has a real bottom this year, like astronomically bad bottom this year. You've got, you've got Utah, you've got potentially Colorado, you've got Oklahoma State, potentially Arizona State. We'll still find out. Maybe Duke's just insanely good, and that was just a bad matchup for some reason.
Yeah, Colorado lost a lot.
Everything. Utah lost a lot.
And they weren't even that good to begin with.
No, they struggled in the freaking Pac-12.
Colorado was at least good.
Utah fans were hanging on to the hope of, we should make the tournament. We beat BYU, who's high analytically. And then they would just proceed to lose to poopy Pac-12 teams like Cal.
Yep.
So that was rough. There are a lot of wins to be had in the Big 12 this year. Like going 500 isn't as impressive as it was last year. Also, West Virginia might be sneaky getting slept onto.
Yes, I'm so excited to watch Tucker DeVries play against Power 5 competition.
And I think he'll be good.
No, I think he'll be good. He just has like an old man's game.
Yep.
He'll translate. Yeah.
Yep. I think that's it on all the conference preview stuff.
Yeah, I think so.
All right, Big 12 winner.
Big 12 winner. I am going regular season Iowa State. Tournament Baylor. Those are my top two teams in the Big 12.
Okay, well, I'll go regular season Kansas, Big 12 tournament. I'm going to go Baylor as well. And then player of the year.
You go first.
I'm going to go Lipsy.
Okay. Shoot, this is tough.
Because you can go the Hunter Dickinson route. You can go LJ Cryer.
The problem is, I think it's going to be Dickinson, but I think that's stupid.
I think it is stupid. I think it's extremely. I don't think it is going to be Dickinson. I know you want to pick Edgecombe. It's not going to be Jeremy Roach.
I'll say it's not going to be Edgecombe, but I'm going to say Edgecombe.
All right.
There's just guys that, I don't know, they're very good
that
teams.
That graphic is going to look hilarious.
But guys are just not standing out to me as much. It's like Caleb Love's also a prime contender for that.
Yeah, that's true.
It could very well be Caleb Love, but I can't bring myself to actually say Caleb Love.
I absolutely refuse.
Yeah, so I'm sticking with Edgecombe.
Absolutely refuse. Let's do some All-American picks. Let's do Final Four. Let's do Player of the Year.
Okay.
And then we'll get out of here.
Cool.
All-American. What's your All-American team? First team.
I'm going to go with Sears.
Yep, same.
I'm going to go with... Because I picked him to win the ACC, I think I've got to go Hunter Salas. That's like my kind of like
first
dark
team
horse.
All-American.
If I'm choosing him to win the ACC, though, I can't like.
So you're saying that means at this point you're probably
I'm getting jumbled in my mind a little bit right now.
Okay, Mark Sears, Hunter Salas. Who's your other three?
I'm going to go with Flag.
Yep.
I'm going to go if Edgecombe's winning Big 12 Player of the Year. I think I've got to go Edgecombe. Okay. And then, although I don't think he should, I think Hunter Dickinson just finds his way on there.
Okay, all right. We went a little different.
My Player of the Years and All-Americans were so gross. I hated that. Okay.
Mark Sears for me. I've got R.J. Davis. I've got Cooper Flagg. I've got Ryan Kalkbrenner as a first. Okay. I think he's just going to put up monster numbers.
Yeah. And especially as a rim protector. Yeah.
And then this last spot, I don't feel great about it, but I'm going Braden Smith.
Okay. I think that's one I was kind of missing. I think it should have been Braden Smith, maybe.
And then who's going to win the Naismith?
I'm going to say the Player of the Year is Sears.
I'm going to go Cooper Flagg.
Okay.
I'm all in.
Yeah.
I'm going to die by Duke this year. I always do.
Yeah.
Final Four. I know you love this segment because they can all definitely play together, and we haven't seen the bracket.
It's so stupid. Like, I want to say my one seeds, but Karter said off air, no. Final Four.
No, you picked your Final Four.
Pick your Final Four.
Because how elite would that be if you picked the actual Final Four before the season and before even seeing the bracket?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Iowa State and Baylor. We get two Big 12 teams this time. I am going to go with Arkansas.
Okay.
Just because I don't know.
That is a effing gross Final Four. Arkansas, Iowa State, Baylor.
And then I'm gonna go Creighton.
The TV networks are fuming.
No,
they are in shambles.
They're fuming. Like, you're gonna post mine, and it's gonna look exactly like the Rizzlers' Final Four.
No, the Rizzlers' Final Four was for real, dude.
Yeah, no, you're
UNCG.
right.
So I have UNCG Providence like the Rizzlers. I'm just kidding.
Indiana and Houston. I hate that I remember it.
My Final Four, I have Baylor as well. I think the guard play gets them there. Alabama. I've got Duke. And I've got Carolina, and I don't feel good about that one. I don't feel good about it.
Duke and UNC, are they on the same side of the bracket?
No.
What?
Because I think Duke makes the national title game. Carolina loses in the Final Four to save me from
on the other side
from Heart Attack 2.0. I am a heart attack survivor. People don't know that. You're like, oh, you're a bigger guy. Like, no, it wasn't a real heart attack. It was a broken heart after Duke lost to Carolina in the Final Four. So, national title pick. Who's winning it? You gave your Final Four, so it's got to be one of those teams.
Yeah, I'm like, Gonzaga. Gonzaga's going to be good. It's another top 10 team that we didn't get around to. I will say Baylor is the national champion.
I am going to pick. You're not going to believe this. The Duke Blue Devils.
No,
everyone at home, the jaws on the floor. They cannot believe the hot take that Karter picked Duke to win the national
Karter
title.
picks Duke. Ben says Virginia. The Sanchez started.
All right. That was the college basketball preview. If you made it to the end, I'm
sorry.
No, I'm not sorry. That was good. That was good stuff.
No. They were watching my they were seeing my Player of the Year All-Americans and Final Four, and I'm sorry for that. That's what you were awarded with after 2 hours.
So how this will work going forward this season, where we're going to do some monthly check-ins, one more time maybe during Feast Week, and then another time right before conference play ramps up. And then once conference play ramps up, we'll be back to weekly pods. But until then, it's football season. We got to get football done, and it's college basketball season.
Yeah, we'll be watching. We'll be tweeting about it. So
make sure to follow at KarterKast on everything, at BDHammond28, at KarterB8, and might have to get the blogs going back up before college basketball season. Get the website finished and ready to roll. So, all right, make sure to subscribe, rate, review, download SeatGeek, use code KarterKast, $20 off your first purchase, $50 minimum purchase required. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube right now, right below here. And if you're watching at the end of the video, check out one of these other videos that are like right here, like right above Ben,
like
right where these basketballs are, basically.
Yeah.
And you can click on the NFL shows or the college football shows, and you get to hear Dylan talk about football, and we get to make fun of Dylan together. Isn't that fun, huh?
Yeah, it's great.
And we're about to do that right now because we got to record the NFL show. So we got to get out of here. Make sure to subscribe. We'll see y'all next time. Bye.